The Radiance of Pokémon wisdom. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526, Finding Hana. According to the predetermined plan, Zahu and others headed towards the front city. During the journey, Zahu passed through the town of Roundwood. He shamelessly defeated his opponent with his hard power, and once again received a ribbon medal and a ticket to participate in the grand celebration. He stopped by Mutong Town for a rest. Walking on the streets of Mutong Town, he saw small commodities related to Hana hanging everywhere on both sides. Boss, why are there so many things about Hana hanging here? Can I see Hana here? Kajiro asked curiously. Yes, there is the Hana scene near Mutong Town. Hana comes here at a certain time every year. It seems to be about this time now, Zahu said. Then boss, is it possible for us to meet? I heard that Hana is a Pokémon that represents luck. Those who see it can get lucky, Kajiro said. If you want to run into it, then you and Meow Meow should pray, and maybe you will meet it. Zahu smiled indifferently. Prayer works. Meow. Meow Meow bowed his head and prayed immediately after hearing what Zahu said. Seeing this, Kajiro also immediately learned to do the same. Then, Monini imitated as usual, which made Zahu laugh again. These guys, no matter what they do, being funny is their main job. Zahu, do you have any way to find Hana? Kona's face also showed a hint of interest. Huh? Even you are interested? Isn't it Hana? Zahu said. Of course, it is a legendary Pokémon that represents luck. Anyone who sees it will be happy. More importantly, it is a water Pokémon. Kona said. Kona, you are the king of ice, Zahu said. And the master of water. Kona rolled his eyes at Zahu unhappily. And who are you talking about? Zahu deliberately misinterpreted the meaning. Kona was stunned at first, but then she quickly reacted. She stretched out her hand and twisted Zahu's ear, pulling it over. Say it again. Try it. Is it because I haven't pulled your ear for too long and you feel uncomfortable? Sister Kona, keep your image. Zahu begged for mercy. Before the relationship between him and Kona was improved, it was common for him to beg for mercy. Now that he was pulled, he instinctively said what Sister Kona said. What image is there? Not many people here know me. Kona's face showed a trace of arrogance, but she still let go of Zahu's ear. No one knows me, but I still have to maintain the image of the Kanto Ice Queen and Goddess. Zahu rubbed his ear and muttered, but do you want to subdue Hana? After all, it is also a very special one among the water Pokémon. To be precise, Hana is not only a very special one among the water Pokémon, but it is a very special one among all Pokémon. In the game, each racial value is only 80, and the total is only 480, but it is set as a fantasy beast like a dream. Its birth is even more mysterious. It is a real mythical beast, the Prince of the Sea, the Prince of all water-type Pokémon, Manaphy, and Ditto. It is a magical beast, very controversial, and can be called the shame of mythical beasts. In reality, its origin is even more unknown. Some people have studied the origin of Hana, but the origin is unknown, but it seems to have nothing to do with Ditto. However, with the legend that it can bring happiness, Hana is already a legend. The race value of 480 is not high, but it is not particularly low. For example, the second level evolution of Ice Ghost, the final race value is only 480, and the race value is just for reference. Beedrill and Hunting Swallowtail can become king level Pokémon. In the black market, Hana is also the most scarce and precious goods. It is more expensive than quasi gods such as Dratini and Yukara, and it is hard to find. How come you, a Pokémon doctor, are always thinking about catching Pokémon? Don't you care about the wild environment of Pokémon? This is Mutong Town, and the SYNOPSIS law stipulates that we can't catch them. Kona scolded. We can't catch them, but we can't abduct them. If a Hana falls in love with us at first sight and wants to follow us, there's nothing we can do, right? Zahu said. Love at first sight, you're just dreaming. Kona said. Who said that? Our sister Kona is so pretty, isn't she? Everything is possible. Zahu said. Stop talking about these useless things and think about how to find Hana first. Kona said. With Meowth and Kagero's prayers, there will be no problem. If it doesn't work, let Zio create a tsunami, and he will definitely be able to find the group of Hana. Zahu said. Pokémon found by creating a tsunami are not happiness, but a curse. Kona rolled her eyes at Zahu. She was looking for Hana, just to ask for good luck. It would be best if she saw it, but it didn't matter if she didn't. Using a tsunami on purpose was completely putting the cart before the horse. Then let Meow and Kagero pray, they can do anything. Zahu said seriously. If it doesn't work, then ask Zyozzy. Zyozzy plus Kagero and Meow can do anything. A group of people played happily for half a day, and then in the afternoon, Zahu and Kona continued to go shopping, while Kagero and Meow started to build a boat with their bare hands. After dinner in the evening, they came to the beach. Kagero and Meow were already waiting by the side, and there was also a submarine. Zahu walked in and knocked on the hull. How is it? Is the quality reliable? Professional certification? Absolutely no problem. If it weren't for the boss to open an amusement park, we all plan to make a fortune from this. Kagero said. The machines you make are fast, but the quality is at most qualified. Okay. If you want advanced, you have to buy other materials, and the manufacturing industry is very complicated. Don't you know? Zahu said. I don't know, but the boss's decision is right. Kagero said loudly. I like your frankness. Zahu said with a smile. Zahu walked into the control room and controlled the submarine himself. He dived into the sea and saw all kinds of marine Pokémon. Groups of Magikarp, Sakura fish, white sea lions, horned goldfish. Various water Pokémon swam by the submarine, playing and fighting. Kona couldn't help but smile. Compared with the Pokémon on land, she still prefers water Pokémon, especially those in the ocean. Zahu looked at the unusual underwater scenery and felt refreshed. Although this was not the first time he had seen it, he had been on land for a long time. Occasionally looking at the colorful underwater world, he felt a special sense of freshness in his heart, and he felt that everything was beautiful and interesting. The two loving fish kissed openly next to the submarine to show their affection. Zahu's eyes lit up, and his eyes fell on Kona's plump red lips. Kona glared at him in shame and anger. Zahu had to give up in dismay, and at the same time, looked at Kagero and Meow with disgust. To light bulbs. Kagero and Meow completely ignored him. It wasn't the first time they were disliked. Over the years, if they weren't disliked 2 or 3 times a day, they would think their boss was not normal. The submarine traveled, and Zahu and his group spent a very pleasant night. Although they didn't find Hana in the end. The submarine began to float up, but before it floated to the surface, the water flow was separated by a strong force, and a shadow appeared above the submarine. Zahu looked up and saw a centaur-shaped Pokémon floating in the sky, with 7 color light flashing around it. The smile on his face froze in an instant. Damn, I was looking for Hana, the weakest fantasy beast, so how come Arceus, the strongest fantasy beast, came? Are you awake at this time? Human, give me the gem of life. Arceus looked down from above, his eyes penetrated the outer layer of the submarine, and saw Zahu directly, and his voice was as cold as a knife. Chapter 527, Meeting Arceus. Do you want to give it back or return it? Zahu controlled the submarine to surface, and then controlled the submarine control room to rise, and a group of people appeared in front of Arceus. Arceus was stunned, as if he didn't expect Zahu to say such a thing. His red eyes flickered slightly and he said, return it back. It belongs to me. Okay. Zahu was unexpectedly straightforward, and released the treasure ball of the staff-tailed scaly dragon. Staff-tailed scaly dragon, although it's a little unexpectedly early, we have to return the things to others now. Zahu said. The staff-tailed scaly dragon looked up at Arceus in the sky, and made a reluctant sound to Zahu. Be good, you have to return other people's things. You can't steal them. Staff-tailed scaly dragon, you are a good baby. Zahu comforted softly. After hearing this, the staff-tailed scaly dragon reluctantly spit out the life gem and spit it towards Arceus. Seeing the long-lost power, Arceus couldn't help but show a trace of excitement in his eyes. But when he thought about this thing coming out of the belly of the staff-tailed scaled dragon, he felt a little disgusted. The power surged, and the seawater below him raised a wave, washing the surface of the life gem several times. Then, the life gem shone brightly, and after a dazzling light, the life gem turned into 5 huge stone slabs, and flew towards Arceus. Arceus' body was shining, and the stone slabs formed a circle like a peacock spreading its tail, surrounding Arceus behind him. But this circle was not complete, with a big gap. It was not until the 5 stone slabs transformed by the life gem flew away, and formed a complete circle that Arceus' circle became perfect. When the circle was completely formed, Arceus exuded holy light all over his body, floating in the air, like the scorching sun in the sky, high above. In the reversed time and space, Giratina in the origin form immediately sensed something, and quickly broke through the space, and came to Arceus. Then, in the unknown space, Palkia and Dialga also sensed a familiar breath. Although they reacted a little slowly, they immediately tore through the space, and came to Arceus. All of a sudden, the 4 strongest beasts in Sinnoh gathered. The magnetic field on the Fire Sea was immediately disordered, the sky and the earth changed color, large purple clouds emerged, and the space became abnormal. The people of Mutang Town went out one after another, terrified, and Miss Junsha and Miss Joy contacted their superiors. The major organizations that had been keeping an eye on the 2 beasts Dialga and Palkia had already set their sights on the Fire Sea without being notified by Junsha and Joy. In the Mitana area, Damas's descendant Hana felt the changes in the super time and space, and looked up at the life gem left by her ancestor Damas, showing a confused expression. Isn't the life gem here? Why is Arceus like he has returned to his heyday? Dialga and Giratina disappeared one after another. Hana was full of doubts, and hurried to find Sirona, Dr. Mustard Orchid and others. In Bayang Town, the space-time tower, the relationship has entered the honeymoon period. Alice and Toneo, who are discussing marriage, look at the changes in the instruments monitoring the space, all of which are inexplicable. At the headquarters of the Galaxy team, Chiri, who has been troubled by the open or covert attacks from the various families in the Alliance recently, noticed the strange fluctuations of Dialga and Palkia, whom he had been tracking, and quickly reacted, issuing orders one by one to explore the places where the fluctuations were abnormal. The others who were studying the power of Dialga and Palkia also began to explore. Zahu still didn't know anything at the moment, and looked curiously at Giratina, the only one he hadn't seen. Zyossi said that Zyossi had seen and saved Giratina, but this was the first time he saw it. It was similar to what he remembered, and looked average, not as good looking as Palkia. Next, his eyes swept over Dialga. Dialga was keenly aware of Zahu's gaze, and then he also noticed Zahu. He had mixed emotions in his heart. Why did he see this bastard again? Are those mythical beasts here? If not, just beat him up. Finally, Zahu looked at Palkia, the most familiar mythical beast. Sure enough, he was a fake space god who couldn't control space. He controlled space, but ended up being the last to arrive. Palkia also noticed Zahu, and his eyes showed an expression of interest. He wanted to see Gyarados. Arceus swept his eyes over Zahu and the other 3 mythical beasts, and asked curiously, do you know each other? Palkia is my friend. I fought with Dialga. I haven't seen Giratina, but my brother has. Zahu explained. Humans and Pokémon can never be friends. You are just using the power of Pokémon. Arceus said in a cold voice. No, it's possible, at least for most people in this world. Humans and Pokémon are the most trusted partners of each other. Zahu said. It's impossible. All you humans have been thinking about is exploitation. You are mean and treacherous. You are the lowest creatures in this world, and should not exist. Arceus stared at Zahu fiercely, his stone slab shining, and his power was extremely strong. The staff-tailed scaly dragon stood up to protect Zahu, looking at Arceus with a defensive face, and the scales on his body trembled, revealing a strong dragon-type power. As a magical beast, you dare to stand in front of me? A trace of anger appeared in Arceus' eyes. The staff-tailed scaly dragon stared at Arceus unwillingly. Zahu was like a father to it, and it would not allow anyone to hurt him. Okay, good boy, armored dragon, don't be anxious. Zahu comforted the armored dragon, then looked at Arceus and said, I just returned the life gem to you, so that you can gather your life energy. After all, I'm half your benefactor. Killing it now is not in line with your kind nature. It was originally mine, and you humans should give it back to me, Arceus said disdainfully, but he still retracted his strength. The thing is indeed yours, but it was not easy for me to get it. People are good and bad, and I'm a good person, Zahu said. So you can still live now, Arceus said. Of course I can live. Wait, you don't want to destroy the world, do you? Zahu reacted and said with a look of horror. This world is too bad. There is no great meaning in existence, Arceus said. Arceus, be rational. Although this world has a lot of darkness, it is also very bright. Where there is shadow, there is always light, Zahu said. I didn't see it, Arceus said. Not seeing it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, Zahu said. I didn't see it, which means it didn't exist, Arceus said. Zahu took a deep breath and almost got angry. What an idealist. If he had known this would happen, he would have returned the life gem to you. I remember that he wasn't so irritable at the beginning of the animation. How about we make a bet? Zahu looked at Arceus and said. Bet. Arceus stared straight at Zahu. Yes, bet on something that you have always been worried about. I bet that Damas didn't cheat on you back then, Zahu said. Impossible. It was that treacherous person who betrayed me. When mentioning Damas, Arceus' emotions were out of control. His power and wild. The clouds in the sky were shaken apart, and the sea surface was also split into two by the powerful force. So do you dare to bet? I said he didn't cheat on you back then. Don't you have any doubts at all? Why did the person who saved you betray you later? Why did a person with a pure nature, who could understand your heart change later? Zahu said. What do you want to bet on? Arceus said. Let's make a bet. If Damas really betrayed you, I would let you destroy the world, and I would even be the first to die. But if Damas didn't betray you, you would help me improve Articuno's strength, and give up destroying the world, Zahu said. Why should I bet with you? Arceus said. Because you owe me a favor. I gave you the life gem. In this way, it's natural for you to destroy me, and you don't have to feel any psychological burden. And Dialga, Giratina, and Palkia don't want you to destroy the world, right? Zahu said. Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina all dissuaded Arceus. They didn't want to destroy humans, let alone the world. They all have friends in this world. How do we bet? After a while, Arceus looked at Zahu and said. It was kind by nature, and it really wanted to know what happened back then. It had never trusted many people in its long life, and it was betrayed by one. It couldn't accept it. Chapter 528, Time Travel. Simple, let Dialga take us through time and space, back to before you were attacked by Damas, so that you know what happened. Zahu smiled. If the bet is right, the world does not need to be destroyed, and Articuno can improve its strength. Okay, I believe you this time. This is your last chance with this world. If you lose the bet, I will not give out his face, Arceus said. Seeing that Arceus finally agreed, Zahu breathed a sigh of relief, but also had a little doubt. Who is the senior called Altis? Why does he seem to have a special position in Arceus' heart? It seems that the reason why the world is not destroyed immediately is because of Altis. What kind of legend is the mysterious founder of the Alliance? Could he also be a pioneer of time travel? Full of doubts, the blue divine power on Dialga's body surged, surrounding Zahu and his group, and the light was flashing. Then Zahu and his group were in a strange passage, surrounded by only strange ripples. Is this a time tunnel? Kajiro was surprised and looked around with great curiosity. If he wasn't afraid of any accidents, he would have to touch it. It should be time travel. Zahu was a little indifferent. After all, this concept was not strange to him. Although he was also curious about the principle, now was not the time to study it. The things that Pokémon can control are really more powerful than those controlled by humans. I really don't know when humans can study such a shuttle. Kona sighed. Although she was a king, she was also knowledgeable, but it was really the first time to travel through time and space. Traveling back to ancient times, still with Zahu, inexplicably, Kona was a little in love and felt that this trip was very interesting. It's better for humans not to study time travel thoroughly, otherwise, the world that can be infinitely repeated will be too chaotic, Zahu said. That's right. Kona thought about the history of infinite repetition and felt it was too terrifying. The group was protected by a light shield in this special passage and shuttled automatically. After a while, as if it was the scheduled time, the light shield brought Zahu and others to a new world. Zahu and others fell to the ground together, looked up at the sky, and saw a rising sun hanging high in the sky, emitting light. Then he looked around and saw buildings with ancient characteristics, which were at least a few centuries old. Judging from the appearance, it should be a temple for worship. Boss, where are we? Kajiro asked curiously. It should be the Mitina in the past. The source of everything. This may be a temple to commemorate and worship Arceus. After all, Arceus saved this place. Zahu said. But the people here still betray Arceus, repaying kindness with enmity. Shameless. Meow. Meow meow said with contempt. Yes, even if I were a human, I would say it's shameless. Kajiro said. That's right, but don't hate the wrong person. Damus, he's not such a shameless person. Zahu said. How do you know? And the most important thing is, how can you have the confidence to make that bet with Arceus? According to what you said, it is recorded that Damus betrayed Arceus and made Arceus lose the life jewel. Otherwise, how could the life jewel appear in your hands? Kona asked curiously. Because that is the truth. Some people's honor must be proven. Zahu smiled. He couldn't explain how he knew, but it was the fact. Damus did not betray Arceus, but was controlled by his subordinates. So Zahu has this confidence. Of course, there is also a possibility that there may be some strange changes in history. After all, it is normal for animation and reality to be a little different. But this is not important. Zahu has come to this time and space. Even if Damus really betrayed, it is not a problem to let that dreamy mental power control Damus. Okay, when you say everything is right, but now we should find Damus first. By the way, do you know Damus? Kona asked a key question. This question is very meaningful, but I think we don't need to look for him. This is his territory. If we make some noise, he should appear. Zahu said. Make some noise. Zyajiro and Myomio looked happy. They were good at this. However, before the two of them started to make noise, the people in the temple reacted first. A group of guards wearing simple armor and holding spears gathered from all over and surrounded Zahu and others. Who are you? What are you doing here? A guard said with a vigilant look. We are people from the future, and we are not here to find you. We are here to find Damus. Where is he? Let him come out to see us quickly. Zyajiro stood in front of a group of guards, with his hands on his waist, and said confidently. Although he didn't know what happened, there must be someone who was ungrateful and repaid kindness with enmity. Even if it wasn't Damus, it was Damus's people, and most of the people here were accomplices. Zyajiro looked down on them. Future? Damus? A group of guards looked at each other, wondering where these crazy people came from. That's right. Hurry up and get Damus out, or get the person in charge to come out. Put away those spears. You can't beat us either. Kajiro said proudly. He said that no Pokémon opponent was a scum. What a crazy person. Take him down. The guard leader didn't bother to think about it anymore, and just took action, catching him first. Really? Then, Kakashi and Pidgeot, come out. Kajiro threw his Pokeball and released Growlithe and Pidgeot. Warcraft? A group of guards were shocked to see Growlithe and Pidgeot suddenly appear, not knowing where they came from. Kakashi, use Jet Flame. Pidgeot, use Fierce Blast. Kajiro gave the attack command, and Growlithe immediately sprayed out raging flames, dispersing a group of guards, and Pidgeot flapped its wings, fanning out a gust of wind, blowing the people around it all over the place. Kajiro looked proud, and suddenly felt that he was still very powerful. He didn't show it at other times, just because Zahu and Kona were too powerful. Zahu stood at the back, rolled his eyes in annoyance, and forced himself not to kick the proud Kajiro in front. With this little strength, what's the point of being happy? Pidgeot has been following for many years, but it has not evolved into Pidgeot. Even if it is given a Mega Evolution Stone, it can't be used. It can only bully those who don't have Pokémon now. If something goes wrong later, I will have to clean up the mess myself. If it wasn't for the need to find someone to find out where Damus is, I would have wanted Jigglypuff to just sing a song. Kajiro was proud of himself with his hands on his hips when a flame suddenly shot out from the side and accurately hit the flying Pidgeot. Vegeta cried out and fell down. Zahu turned his head to look to the side and saw a reddish-brown four-legged Pokémon lying on the grass slope. Its body was slightly like a turtle, and it was covered with brown and orange spots, as if it was mixed with magma. There was a structure similar to a metal anklet on its leg, and something like a saddle on its back. It's Master Kixin's Zadualon who has arrived. Master Kixin has arrived, so everything will be fine. The guards lying on the ground were overjoyed when they saw Zadualon appear. They discussed it all at once. In short, the meaning was clear. Zahu and his group were doomed. Zahu was slightly amused. Although Zadualon was also a divine beast, he thought that he could defeat himself with just one Zadualon. He was thinking too much. He looked at Zadualon with a smile. There was a middle-aged man who looked like a priest. He held a scepter in his hand and had a solemn face. Behind him was a bronze bell and something like a saddle. He was holding a scepter and was the leader here. He could basically determine the target. Chapter 529. Violent Suppression. Who are you? Kizin held the scepter and looked down at Zhihui and the others. Your father. Zhihui said unceremoniously. It was because of the self-righteousness of this man that Arceus fell asleep and triggered a series of crises later. It was really a grudge. He accepted Arceus' help, but not only did he not repay the favor, but he also planned to kill Arceus to occupy the life gem. It was really despicable. Hearing Zhihui's insult, Kizin's face suddenly darkened, and he said coldly, "Bronze Bell." The bronze bell shook and burst out with strong mental fluctuations. Meowcona was well prepared and released Mew. Mew floated gently in the air, and powerful telekinesis emerged, offsetting all the mental fluctuations of the bronze bell. Kizin's face changed, as if he didn't expect Kona to suddenly release a Pokémon like Mew. He said coldly, "Sidolin, attack." Sidolin spewed flames from his mouth, and a long column of hot orange-red flames sprayed directly at Zhihui and the others. Dream crossed his hands and used one to guard. The green light shield guarded Zahu and others. The jet flames of Zadualon hit the light shield and were dispersed, unable to shake the light shield at all. Go and release all the monsters in the dungeon. Feeling that Zahu and his group were not easy to mess with, Kizan ordered hurriedly. A group of people were ready to take action. Zahu threw the Pokeball and released Lugia, Dragonite, and Entei. Xiaoluo, control everyone with telekinesis and don't move. Dragonite teaches Zadualon to be a beast, and Entei makes Bronze Bell lie down. Zahu ordered calmly. The three Pokémon immediately took action. Lugia soared in the sky, and the powerful telekinesis swept around, controlling everyone and making them unable to move. Dragonite used a Dragon Claw to paste Zadualon's face and beat Zadualon up. Entei's sacred flame burst out and pounced on Bronze Bell, knocking Bronze Bell down and beating him up. They were all one-sided, crushing without any effort. Kizin's face changed greatly. He didn't expect these inexplicable people to have such strength. Before he could come up with a countermeasure, Zahu walked up to him, snatched the scepter from his hand, and then took out the life gem inside with a little effort. Sure enough, it's here. Next, go to Damas to study it, and then the matter will be solved. Zahu said. You want to give the life gem to Arceus? Absolutely not. If you do this, Mitina will become desolate and decayed again, and the human beings here will have no future. Kizan said with a look of shock and anger. The future must be obtained with your own hands, not just relying on the gifts and help of others. Not to mention that for your own selfish interests, you raise the butcher knife to the benefactor who helped you. You are so despicable and complacent. You are really shameless. Zahu said. The life gem is here. Mitina can prosper. Everyone can live. I'm not doing this for myself, but for all the people in this place. Kizan said. Don't talk about all the people all the time. Moral kidnapping is useless. Not to mention, even if it's all the people in the whole place, you owe Arceus. Arceus doesn't owe you anything. It saved Mitina from being destroyed under the meteor shower, and gave the life gem, a part of its life, to Damas to help you. As a result, you are accustomed to its help. Not only are you not grateful, but you are greedy, and want to continue to have it, and you think you are right. Zahu sneered. The life gem can fundamentally give life to this barren land, making the land that was bombarded by the meteor shower become fertile again. It can be said to be resurrected, but Ruji has changed this year. It can rely on its own hard work and does not need to rely on the life gem as a cheat. To put it bluntly, greed is at work. So what? It has helped us so much, why not help us more? Anyway, it can live without the life gem. Kizin roared. Oh my, your remarks are truly that of a weakling. By the way, I take back what I said about being your father. If my son is like you, I will slap him to death. Zahu put the life gem into his pocket, then looked at a guard and said, do you know where Damas is? Take us to find him. The guard was controlled by telekinesis, his whole body was stiff, and only his lips could move. Knowing that everything was now controlled by Zahu, he did not dare to refuse, and stammered, I know. Okay, Xiaoluo, untie this person, and then let the rest of them fall asleep. Zahu said. Lucia's eyes flashed with blue light, and the powerful telekinesis penetrated, knocking out everyone, except the person Zahu asked. Okay, tell us where Damas is? Zahu said. In the dungeon. The guard said. Dungeon? Isn't he the leader here? Why is he in the dungeon? Kajiro said in surprise. He was captured by Master Chizun a few days ago. The guard whispered. So, Arceus's affairs are really none of his business. Boss, you are amazing. Kajiro said in surprise. My god, did you know this on the first day? Zahu said indifferently, and looked at the guards again. Okay, take us to the dungeon to see Damas. The guards did not dare to resist, and led Zahu and his party to the dungeon carefully. Along the way, occasionally there were guards who felt something was wrong, and were about to take action, but with the telekinesis of Menghun, they fell down gorgeously. In this way, Zahu and his party entered the dungeon unimpeded. On the way, they passed a huge cell, which was dark inside, and vaguely saw a large group of Pokémon resting inside. These Pokémon live here? Meow. Meow Meow said in surprise. After getting familiar with the current world in the atmosphere, where humans and Pokémon are friends, he suddenly saw a large group of Pokémon locked in a cell, which seemed very uncomfortable. Yes, if these monsters are not locked up, they may cause big problems if they are raised outside. Of course, they must be locked up, especially when Lord Damas is locked up. The guard said. Didn't you team up with Kixin to capture Damas? Why do you still call him sir? Zahu asked in surprise. This temple was built by Sir Damas. The prosperity of Medina is also due to Sir Damas. We all admire him. He can communicate with Pokémon freely and listen to their voices, which is even more amazing. But what Sir Kixin said makes sense. We want Medina to be better and don't want Medina to return to its previous state. The guard said with a bit of shame on his face. So we repay kindness with enmity. Zahu said. We can't resist Sir Kixin. Sir Kixin has the Duelan and the Bronze Bell. Even Sir Damas was calculated. How can we be his opponent? The guard said again. Zahu looked at the guards and said nothing. Although he knew that the guards were trying to make excuses, it was actually the same. This group of guards had both self-morality and greed. When Damas was around, they didn't dare to resist. Self-morality overwhelmed greed. The appearance of Kixin gave them a reason to let greed overwhelm morality. To put it bluntly, they were fence sitters, leaning towards whichever side was stronger. It was pointless to argue with them. He looked across the cell and saw that these Pokémon also had saddle-like things on them. He pointed at them curiously and said, what are these? These are the control props invented by Lord Kixin. As long as we have these things, we can command these monsters. Otherwise, we will be attacked. The guard said. It would be strange if you command slaves and don't get attacked. Meow. Meow Meow said disdainfully. Don't worry, the background of the times. In ancient times, the Pokeball had not yet been invented. Humans controlled Pokémon in this way, completely enslaved. Probably only Damas was better, because he would listen to the voice of Pokémon. He had the power of super control. Zahu said, there are relics of controlling Pokémon in various places, and emperors and queens with great achievements basically enslaved Pokémon in the form of slavery. Boss, I love you. Meow. Meow Meow was suddenly very moved. Compared with these Pokémon, her treatment was much better. Although the boss was very black-hearted, he also took good care of her. At least she didn't let herself sleep in such a small dark room. No, just give your love to Xiangli Meow, I don't need it. Zahu said. Meow Meow looked aggrieved and continued to walk forward. After turning a few corners, Zehu and his men stopped in front of a cell. The jailer in charge was an old man. When he saw Zehu and his men, he didn't react at all, just leaned aside, as if he was asleep. Zehu also pretended not to see it. His eyes passed through the door of the cell and fell on a burly man in the shadows. The target of this trip is Damas. Chapter 530, Solving the Problem. Who are you? Damas looked at Zehu and his group in surprise. Zehu and his group were dressed in the new century style. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that they were not from this era. People from the future who accepted Arceus' commission. Zehu said, Arceus commission? What about Arceus? You are from the future. What about Arceus in the future? Damas asked 3 questions in a row. Zehu's heart moved, thinking that he was worthy of being the former leader of Mitana. He could quickly accept such an incredible thing as a visitor from the future, and asked 3 questions in a row. The first focus was on Arceus. Asking Arceus showed Damas's attention to Arceus. The second showed his concern. The third was to change his mind and ask about the future. Good and not good. In the legend of the future, you betrayed Arceus, embezzled the life gem, attacked Arceus, causing Arceus to sleep for many years, and you also died in that battle. Zehu said, is it? I betrayed our benefactor? Damas looked at Zehu in disbelief. That's right. You have been taking the blame for your assistant Chickson for hundreds of years. Zehu said, how is Arceus now? Damas asked anxiously. Just now, I returned the life gem to it, and it has recovered its strength. It was just because it was betrayed by its trusted friend. It was full of anger and planned to destroy the world. After discussing with it, I made a bet on whether you betrayed it. If not, it will stop its plan. If so, I will commit suicide. Zehu said. Then everything can still be saved. Damas said happily. Yes, there is a way to save it. As long as you stop everything from happening now, and wait until the time is up, and then give the life gem to Arceus, everything will be fine. Zehu said. Thank you for remedying my mistake. Damas suddenly bowed deeply to Zehu, and thanked him repeatedly. The real mistakes still need you to remedy them. Correct this history, and make Arceus no longer hate humans. Zehu accepted Damas's worship calmly. If he hadn't traveled through time this time, according to the original trajectory of history, Damas and Chickson would have died. He could be regarded as saving Damas' life in disguise. I will make Arceus no longer hate humans. Damas said firmly. I believe you. Zehu smiled slightly and asked Yandy to open the prison door. Damas walked out from inside, thanked Zehu again, and immediately took action to take back Chickson's power and control the entire temple. Zehu and his friends were happy and leisurely, but out of careful consideration, Zehu still put the life gem in his arms and did not give it to Damas to avoid any accidents. You won the bet. Kona said. Yes, because I'm excellent. Zehu said. Sometimes, I really want to ask you, why do you know so many things? Don't say you found it by looking up information. I don't believe it. Kona said. You know it by nature. Zyos, he is the illegitimate child of Arceus, and I'm the illegitimate child of Fate, so I know more. Zehu said. Although you are talking nonsense, I really believe that you are the illegitimate child of Fate. Kona said. Okay, let's not talk about this. We are now in a world hundreds of years ago. This may only happen once in a lifetime. Take a good vacation. If you miss it, you won't have it again in the future. Zehu said. Kona nodded and followed Zehu in the temple of this era, enjoying this rare journey of time. Damas was naturally grateful to Zehu and his benefactors who saved him. He gave the highest level of hospitality, and Zehu also lived a noble life for half a day. Although the nobles of this era have almost nothing comparable to those of later generations except for more slaves, the fruits and vegetables are all natural and taste very good. Eating them occasionally has a different flavor. Kajiro and Meow Meow also played here. Everyone knew them and did not stop them. Time passed bit by bit, and soon it was night, and the moon was completely swallowed. The agreed time has come. In front of the temple, a space channel suddenly opened, and Arceus flew out of it, and then flew straight inside. Damas, the life gem. Zehu, who had been staying in the temple, heard Arceus urging, and his expression was subtle. They were both asking for the life gem, but the attitude of asking Damas and asking him was completely different. Here. Damas said to Arceus excitedly. Arceus flew over and looked at Damas and Zahu. Zahu took out the life gem from his pocket, handed it to Arceus and said, "Here, your stuff." Arceus looked surprised. He didn't understand why he would let a stranger return the life gem he had lent to Damas, especially when Damas was right next to him. But the life gem was right, so it was fine, and he would take it back first. Arceus' eyes moved slightly, and the life gem flew up automatically, flashing a dazzling light all over his body, and then turned into 5 stone slabs, and flew towards it. Then, the scene that Zahu had seen before on the Fire Sea was replayed. "Human, you are not from this era. Where are you from?" Arceus looked at Zahu and the others strangely and said, "We are from hundreds of years after this era. It was Dialga who asked us to travel through time and space to come here and return the life jewel to you." Zahu said, "Dialga? Return it to me? What do you mean? Will Damas not return it to me today?" Arceus looked at Zahu strangely, but his voice was gentle. Zahu secretly sighed. He did the same thing. Arceus before being betrayed was easier to talk to than Arceus later. For example, his eyes are green now, not red. It's great. Damas didn't betray you. He is your reliable friend. It's just that he was betrayed by his men. His men wanted to take the life jewel for themselves, and then you mistakenly thought that Damas betrayed you. In the end, you killed Damas. I came to prevent the tragedy from happening." Zahu said. "Are you telling the truth?" Arceus said. "Of course, otherwise, how could Dialga let me travel through time and space?" Zahu said. "It's true. Without him, I would still be locked in the dungeon and unable to return the life gem to you." Damas said, looking at Arceus. A strange power grew in his body, and he communicated with Arceus. The power of super control can feel the heart of Pokémon, soothe Pokémon, and communicate with each other. After a spiritual exchange, Arceus lowered his head and looked at Zahu and said, "Are you telling the truth? Then I owe you a favor?" Zahu blinked and looked at Arceus in disbelief. Damn, Arceus hundreds of years ago and Arceus hundreds of years later are completely two different Pokémon. This Arceus hundreds of years ago is really not easy to talk to. I like it. Chapter 531 Altis and Arceus. Before I crossed over, I told you in the future that if I can prove that Damas did not betray you, you will help me make Articuno evolve forever. Zahu said. The power of Super Conquer just now has allowed Arceus to feel Damas's heart, so he naturally believes that Damas did not betray it. Let Articuno evolve. Arceus looked at Zahu strangely. Yes, that's it. Zahu released Articuno. His mind and spirit were united. His spirit was united with Articuno's spirit. Ice and snow were flying. Articuno evolved extraordinary in the ice and snow. His wings spread out. Extraordinary. The temperature of the whole hole dropped sharply. Ice and snow were flying. Gene evolution. Articuno can actually change like this. Human, you really surprised me. Arceus looked at Articuno and said to Zahu. Articuno can evolve super evolved, don't you know? Zahu was surprised. As the god of creation, shouldn't Arceus know everything? I don't know. I created this world, and then the world evolved and changed to become what it is now. But I only know the origin of the seed, but I can't predict what the seed will look like in the end. Arceus said. I see. Can you help Articuno stay in this form forever? Zahu suddenly realized, just like parents give birth to a child, but the parents don't know what the child will look like in the end. Yes, but it will require me to spend a lot of strength. With my current strength, if I use it, I will fall asleep. You should go find me in the future later. Arceus said. Okay, no problem. Although Zahu was a little disappointed, it was expected. He also knew that Arceus was very weak now, and borrowing the source of life would have a great impact on it. In the original work, he traveled through time and space to return the things, and Arceus fell asleep after using a little strength. After all, before borrowing the stone tablet, Arceus had already solved a meteor shower. The radiant god of Alola next door, who also created a world, fell into a weak state after solving a meteor shower and has not recovered from the weakness until now. After cheering up, Zahu said to Arceus, then next, we have to say goodbye. Now we are waiting for Dialga to use up his power and call us back. See you in the future. No, you give me a strange feeling, like deja vu. Have we met before? Arceus looked at Zahu and said. For me, I have seen you before, but for you, that is your future. Before the current you, I definitely have not seen you. Zahu said. Not necessarily. If you travel through time and space again in the future, maybe you will see it before. Kona said. Zahu was slightly stunned and found that it was really possible. Although traveling through time and space is difficult, Dialga and Celebi can do it. Maybe in the future, he will really travel through time and space again. Dialga is difficult to communicate with, but Celebi is easy to talk to, but his power is a little insufficient. Basically, he can only travel through time within 100 years. Beyond 100 years, it is a bit overloaded. Wait, could that person named Altis be the one who traveled through time by himself? It's terrifying to think about it. Let's go back and see if there are any pictures left. Zahu took a deep breath, suppressed the guess and said, if that's the case, it's your past and my future. I still can't answer you. You give me a strange feeling, as if you are not from this world. I have only had this feeling once. Arceus said. The biggest secret was exposed, and Zahu's face changed suddenly. I remember that Altis also gave me the same feeling. He told me that he was not from this world, but from an unknown world called Water Blue Star. Arceus suddenly said he was old and couldn't remember many things. Water Blue Star? Traveler? Zahu was horrified. It was really the same as I thought. The person named Altis was actually a traveler. Do you know him? Arceus said. I don't know him, but I know Aquamarine. I've been there. Zahu said. So we are the same person. No wonder I feel the power in you is strange. Arceus said. Can you tell me something about Arceus? Zahu asked curiously. If it was in another world, it might be a meeting between fellow villagers with guns behind their backs, but in the Pokémon world, a harmonious place, Zahu is a man without ambition, so when fellow villagers meet, their eyes are filled with tears. Especially since this fellow traveler is dead. Okay. Arceus nodded. At this time, Zahu's body suddenly became a little illusory, as if he was about to disappear. Kona, Kachiro, Meowth, and Articuno were all in the same situation. Their bodies were illusory and about to disappear. What's going on? Kajiro said with a look of horror. It should be time, so we have to go back to the future. Kona said calmly. Then I'll find you in the future to find out the truth. Zahu looked at Arceus, feeling so depressed that he almost wanted to kill him. Everything was agreed upon, but suddenly he had to travel through time and cancel it. Who knows if the future Arceus will be as easy to talk to as the current Arceus. No, let's do it now. A glow appeared on Arceus' body, and he disappeared in front of Damas with Zahu, sinking into a light hole. Damas had an inexplicable expression, and then he saw Kona and several others disappear first, and finally shrugged his shoulders, and prepared to open up farmland. Without the life gem, the fertility of Mitina depends on their own hard work. Zahu was brought to a strange space by Arceus. The surroundings were vast and boundless, as if there was no edge, but there was nothing, and it was cold and deserted. This is my world. You are the second human to come here besides me, Arceus said. The first one was Altis? Zahu said. That's right. Arceus said. Is Altis very different to you? Zahu asked curiously. Yes, he is my first friend, a real friend. He named Arceus. Arceus said. Ah, he named you? Zahu was shocked. What a big gossip. Yes, I didn't have this name at that time. Later, when I met him, he said I should have this name, so I changed it. But he said that his name was changed according to mine. Arceus said. Zahu thought about it and thought that the senior time traveler planned to start over with a new name after traveling through time, and then took a name similar to Arceus and used Arceus' status in Pokémon as his goal to strive for his status in human society. But later, he found out that Arceus was not called this name, and then tried to persuade Arceus to call this name, which was reasonable. How did Arceus die in the end? Does he have any descendants? Zahu said. He died of old age. Although he was very special, he was still a human being. He lived for more than 100 years and then died. His descendants inherited his abilities and can use some of my power. Now they seem to be in a small place, worshipping me from generation to generation. Arceus said. They can use some of your power and live together. Zahu's heart skipped a beat. Why is this so similar to the Valley of Creation in the Hooper movie? The residents there resonate with nature and have magical powers. That's right, Arceus said. Can you tell me about the world of Water Blue Planet? I'd like to know. Arceus said. Okay, no problem. Chapter 532 Unexpected Changes. There is no sun or moon in Arceus' mysterious space, and all instruments automatically malfunction when they enter. So Zahu didn't know how long he stayed in there. He just chatted with Arceus every day and exchanged experiences with each other. Arceus learned a lot about the blue water planet from Zahu, as well as many future things, such as super evolution, Z moves, and even the Dynamax, that only appeared briefly in Galar. Zahu also learned a lot of secrets about the founding of the Alliance from Arceus, including why a group of super ancient beasts were sleeping. Back then, a group of powerful super ancient beasts fought uncontrollably and opened up a different dimension. That different dimension was where the ultimate beasts lived. That's why a bunch of ultimate beasts were attracted. In the end, Arceus used the power of Arceus and the power of super ancient magic to seal all the rebellious super ancient Pokémon. It also completely sealed the unstable ultimate space points one by one. As for why there are so many Ultra Caves in Alola now, it is because Arceus did not have a good relationship with Necrozma, the god of light in Alola, so he did not go there. This is also the main reason why there has been no alliance in the Alola region for so many years. And the relationship between Zahu and Arceus is getting better and better. After all, it is hard for them to have bad feelings when they chat every day, especially Arceus, who has very few friends. Zahu, it's almost time for you to leave, Arceus said. Zahu came from the future. He used his power to stop Zahu from leaving, but it could not stop him forever. Then see you in the future, Zahu said. Before you leave, I will give you a gift. Arceus' body floated in the air and suddenly shone with golden light. In the middle of his body, a special golden wheel burst out with strong energy and gathered in the air. Then the energy shrank into a palm-sized ornament and floated in front of Zahu. Zahu reached out to take it, and a mysterious power emerged in his heart. He looked at Arceus with an inexplicable expression, expressing his confusion. This is part of my power. If you master it, as long as you love nature and the world in the future, it will give you infinite power, Arceus said. As long as you love the world. Zahu looked at the ornament in his hand and confirmed that the people in the Valley of Creation were the descendants of Arceus. Yes, you said well. When you are proficient, you can use it without the ornament. At that time, protect the world for me, Arceus said. Ah, why? Zahu was puzzled. Although everyone had a good relationship in the past few days, this gift was a bit heavy. Because I don't want to spend too much energy in this world. I want to have enough power to see your world called Water Blue Star. And after listening to you talk so much about the future, I suddenly feel that this world is too boring. I plan to sleep and wake up when the time comes, Arceus said. Thank you. I will protect the world, Zahu said. Goodbye, Arceus said. Well, hug. Zahu didn't care whether Arceus agreed or not and directly reached out to hug Arceus, and then his body disappeared. After a while, Zahu reappeared on the Fire Sea. It was still the same submarine as before the time travel, but the whole person's state was different. Closing his eyes, Zahu seemed to feel the voice of the whole world, the power of Arceus. When he looked up, he saw Arceus still floating in the air, looking down at Zahu. It was the same Arceus, but the feeling after seeing him was completely different. Zahu opened his arms and said, "Come, let's hug again." Arceus' expression was slightly stunned. Is this human crazy? After traveling through time and space once, his brain is broken. Full of impatience, he planned to punish the light gravel. Energy gathered, and countless meteor-like meteorites appeared in the sky, about to fall and destroy the world. Zahu's face changed suddenly. I have traveled through time and space, haven't things changed? I just hugged you in the past second. Why did you turn your face and ignore me in the next second? Zahu roared in his heart, but his hands did not move slowly. He released all three main forces, Dragonite, Articuno, and Lugia. The three Pokémon were ready to launch their strongest attacks. Suddenly, Arceus' body froze, as if his brain was stuck. Many inexplicable memories appeared in his mind, and then the world began to correct itself. The meteorite retreated directly and turned into nothingness. The things that Arceus had destroyed around him were restored to their original state. The armored dragon in Zahu's Pokeball suddenly twitched, as if all the strength in his body had been drained. After a while, Arceus finally woke up and looked at Zahu and said, "I remember everything. You chatted with me for a long time. I'm glad you remembered it." Zahu breathed a sigh of relief. Armored Dragon suddenly jumped out of the Pokeball and leaned against Zahu with a weak face. "Armored Dragon, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?" Zahu asked with concern. "Armored Dragon, I'm very tired and weak," said Armored Dragon. "Very tired and weak? History has been corrected, and the life gem was returned in the past, so you didn't swallow the life gem, so your strength was drained." Zahu frowned. Damn it, he was so busy improving the strength of Articuno that he forgot about the armored dragon. "No, boss, if that's the case, everything will be corrected, then everything that has happened in Baiyang Town so far will change. It's impossible to change only one armored dragon, and if the armored dragon doesn't get the life gem, it won't evolve." Kajiro was surprised. Paint bucket effect. Zahu gritted his teeth. The butterfly effect appears in various novels, especially in the prehistoric, immortal, and fan fiction novels. The meaning is simple, referring to some seemingly small changes that may cause huge changes, emphasizing variables. In general, it is used to prove how powerful the protagonist of the time traveler is, because his intervention can break the situation, similar to man conquering nature. However, people often overlook the paint bucket effect that contradicts it. Pouring paint into the sea will affect the seawater in a short period of time, but if there is only this bucket, and no other pollution, then as time goes by, the paint will be completely assimilated into the seawater, and nothing can be changed. It emphasizes constants. History has a mysterious correction effect, or it can be called the inevitability of historical development. Zyozzy is the best example. Zahu even dismantled Team Rocket, but Zyozzy has almost no changes compared to the original animation, and they all make up for it in another form. There are also Kajiro and Meowth. God knows why they can recite Team Rocket's lines so well without meeting Musashi. Now I have changed the past, but the following can still be corrected with other reasons. If I hadn't met the life gem, it would not be a big problem for Heart Scale Treasure to evolve into the current Staff Tail Scale Armored Dragon under Zahu's training. The rest are also insignificant trivia, which has little to do with the life gem, or can be replaced by something else, but the Staff Tail Scale Armored Dragon is in direct contact, so the effect is invalid. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533 The True God of Ice. Arceus. Zahu looked up at Arceus, wanting Arceus to restore the power of the armored dragon. This loss was not included in the bet, and was an accident. The bet was made because Arceus had already taken back the life gem, but still wanted to destroy the world, so Arceus should take full responsibility. But when the word came to his lips, he was embarrassed to say it when he thought of the gift he had received from Arceus in the past and the special power he had now. According to the agreement, Zahu should not have such power. Damus, you did not lie to me. Arceus looked at Zahu. His eyes were much gentler than before. Yes, no. Zahu said. This world seems to be really the same as you said. Arceus said. Yes, I will not lie to you either. Zahu said. Now, I will do what I promised you before. Release Articuno. Arceus said. Can you replace Articuno with Armored Dragon? Zahu said after a little hesitation. Between the two, Zahu prefers Articuno, but Articuno is also his Pokémon. If there is a chance to become stronger, and he has to choose between the two Pokémon, Zahu will tend to choose Articuno, but the current situation is that, in order to make Articuno stronger, Articuno has lost its original strength, which is completely different. It becomes that Zahu has to exchange Articuno. If Articuno continues to become stronger like this, Articuno will inevitably have psychological problems. As a trainer, you can have preferences, but you can't be too partial. Okay, both together. Arceus said. Both together? Are you strong enough? Chiho was surprised at first, and then worried. He really doubted Arceus's power. To be honest, he doubted the power of Pokémon in this world. It seems that the power of all Pokémon has been weakened. Like the holy Pillar King Regigigas, the existence that dragged the entire continent with a rope, but in the movie version of Giratina, it couldn't even stop a glacier. It wasn't possible before, but it is possible now. All 17 stone tablets on Arceus flew out, shining and glittering, and the whole space was enveloped by a strange power. The staff-tailed scaly armored dragon was surrounded by a strange power, and flew into the air. 2 stone tablets flew out, and the power enveloped and transformed the whole body. Dragon and Grid Dual Attribute Stone Tablets. Articuno, come and achieve eternal super evolution. Zahu looked at Articuno on the side, and when their eyes met, they understood each other's intentions. Ice crystals flew, and eternal evolution was achieved. Another ice-type stone tablet flew out, and flew towards Articuno. A strong chill burst out, and large pieces of ice and snow fell in the sky. The power of Articuno rose with a terrifying trend. Orange Islands, Ice Island, Articuno, the current god of ice, suddenly felt a sense of threat and fear, as if something was being taken away from him, and as if a new king was born. Lugia in the deep sea also felt something was wrong. On the Fire Sea, the 2 stone tablets covering the staff-tailed scaly armored dragon quickly stopped rotating. The staff-tailed scaly dragon landed on the submarine, sweeping away the previous decadence, and was full of energy and fighting spirit. Not only did it absorb the previous dragon power, but it also gained some fighting power. It is now stronger than before, and can be said to be a standard 2nd level god. The slate of Articuno is still shining, and the ice and snow around it are rapidly expanding. The temperature drops by more than 10 degrees. Kajiro and Meowth are shivering with cold, and Kona also feels cold. Zahu quickly released the entry, and the entry was burning with flames to provide warmth. Another protection of Dream isolates this place from the outside world, so that the temperature can be preserved. Articuno seems to be unaware, feeling the rapid increase in physical strength. The ice element of the world are approaching it, with unprecedented tacit understanding. It feels that it is really going to become a god at this moment. God of ice. Ice crystals are falling all over the sky. Articuno, in a fixed super evolved form, is like an ice phoenix, high above, looking down on all directions, and the entire sea surface is covered with large areas of ice and snow. Somewhere in Sinop, Ho-Oh, who was looking for Suicune and Raikau, suddenly felt the power of Articuno and blinked. What was going on? Arceus had drawn it, so where did the new beast come from? Its attributes didn't match mine. Out of curiosity, he flew directly to the Fire Sea. When Arceus and his beasts appeared, the forces that were rushing to the Fire Sea quickly, needless to say, caught up with the speed of flight, and accelerated the speed of flight to the Fire Sea. Zahu didn't know that he had become the core of the storm again inexplicably. At this moment, he stared at Articuno in the air with burning eyes. His initial idea was just to let Arceus fix Articuno in the super evolved form forever. But he forgot that Articuno itself was a beast loved by heaven and earth. Although it was only level 3, it was also a beast. Now that Arceus, the god of creation, was allowed to improve his strength forever, he was actually creating a new level 1 beast. Only Arceus could do it. The ornament in his arms suddenly gave off a chill. Zahu reached out to touch it, and suddenly he felt a sense of emptiness in his heart, as if he had attained enlightenment. An unprecedented wonderful feeling emerged in his heart. He knew that it was because of his bond evolution with Articuno and the shared senses. He stopped thinking about it, and concentrated on feeling this rare opportunity. After a long time, Articuno's evolution was completed. At this moment, it was more magical than its previous super evolved form. Ice and snow were flying all over its body, and the cold current was like clouds covering its whole body, like a dream, adding a bit of dreamy and blurred feeling, cold and arrogant. Feeling the sudden increase in its strength, Articuno excitedly let out a high-pitched cry, shaking the sky, and the ice and snow became more abundant. After dancing excitedly in the sky for a while, it stopped. Arceus took back the ice slabs, and the 17 slabs took back Arceus' body together, then looked at Zahu and said, "I have done what I promised you." Next, I will take a look at this world and find a chance to go to the world you mentioned. Goodbye. If one day you can go to that world, tell me and I will go with you. Zahu smiled. Okay. Arceus nodded, and a space opened up beside him and disappeared directly. After Arceus disappeared, Dialga and Giratina also left one after another. Palkia stayed and said to Zahu, next time, bring Gyarados to see me. I want to see it. Okay, I will bring it back from the Pokémon Center next time to meet you, Zahu said. Palkia nodded and disappeared in the air. Zahu smiled slightly, looked at the Articuno in the air and said, Articuno, congratulations, your power has become stronger. It's all because of your help. Thank you. The voice of Articuno sounded in Zahu's heart. What's there to talk about between us? Zahu said. But now I'm the god of ice, so I can't travel with you anymore. I can't be your Pokémon anymore. Articuno said sadly. Divine beasts have their own duties and relationships with the world. Now that Articuno has taken over the duties of the god of ice in the Orange Islands, it also needs to take action. This is another reason why Arceus agreed. After Articuno becomes stronger, it is actually equivalent to working for it. It's okay, just get stronger. When I retire in the future, just remember to move near my home. Zahu smiled. This result was within his expectations. The relationship between Pokémon and trainers is similar to that of companions. It's good to be together, but all good things must come to an end. It's also similar to the relationship between parents and children, which ends in separation. After you decide on a place, I will move the Articuno clan to the side of your home. When your child grows up, I will let an Articuno be his initial Pokémon. Articuno said. Okay, then we'll see if they will also evolve through bondage. Zahu smiled. Articuno stared at them. The tacit understanding between one person and one pet has reached the highest level, needless to say. Articuno flapped its wings, turned into a blue light, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Chapter 534. Major forces gather. Are you reluctant? You worked so hard to make your Pokémon stronger, but in the end you have to let it go. Kona said. Of course I'm reluctant, just like parents watching their children grow up and no longer cling to them. There is always a little reluctance, but more of it is relief. The Articuno I cultivated is the strongest one in history, Zahu said proudly. Indeed, the strongest one. Kona said that the first Articuno in history to evolve to this form is naturally the strongest. Besides, I'm also giving you champions a chance. Let's put some main forces. Otherwise, there is no pressure. With a Dragonite or a Lugia, I can slaughter the entire team of any champion. Zahu looked lonely and invincible. Kona's mouth twitched slightly. At this moment, she had the urge to completely ignore her image and beat Zahu up. But she had to admit that Zahu was right. Dragonite, Lugia, Giant Gyarados, and King of Leaf are the four insurmountable mountains that weigh on the heads of all champions. And Articuno left, but if we really need to compete and give Zahu enough time to prepare, is it difficult to find it back? Huh? Why are you here? Zahu and his friends watched Articuno leave and then prepared to leave. Although they didn't see Hana this time, it was worth it to see Arceus and Giratina. At this time, a rainbow passed through the sky and the phoenix flew over. Zahu looked up at the big bird in the rainbow and thought of the eternal evolution of Articuno just now. He thought to himself, should the name of the phoenix be changed? Although your strength is definitely enough, your appearance is really a little lacking. Why are you here? Zahu asked after complaining in his heart. After all, he had just seen the phoenix, and there was nothing to complain about his appearance. I felt that a Pokémon in charge of power appeared, so I came here, but I didn't expect to see you again. The phoenix said. That's Articuno. Zahu didn't hide anything and told everything again. I see. Will you live in Alola in the future? Said the Ho-Oh. Why do you ask? Zahu asked curiously. Because I feel like it will be fun to be with you in the future. Besides, with you I have Articuno and Lugia. If there are still guardian gods in Alola who want to fight me, I will be 3 against 2. The Ho-Oh thought secretly in his heart. Are you sure you want to go to the Alola region? Zahu said. Probably. If Alola is really like what you and Kona said, I plan to go there. The Ho-Oh said. Okay, I'll consider it. Zahu said. If he really chooses a place to retire, his hometown in Pallet Town, the Orange Islands, and the Alola Islands are all places he would consider. Goodbye. When I flew over just now, I saw a lot of human planes flying over here. They must have discovered something. You can deal with it yourself. The Ho-Oh flapped its wings and left again. Zahu shrugged slightly, looked at Kona and said, do you plan to retire in Alola in the future? In this way, when our children grow up, maybe we can take the 3 sacred beasts to travel together. Let me think about it. Kona hesitated. She was one of the 4 heavenly kings of Kanto, and her hometown was near the Orange Islands. Both regions were more suitable for work. In the Alola region, the alliance had not yet been established, so she had completely given up work in the past. However, if she had a good relationship with the Phoenix King, she might be able to trick the 3 sacred beasts into giving her children. This choice was crucial. Then let's go to the cake shop and think about it while eating. A group of people will probably come back to question us at that time. Zahu said. The 4 sacred beasts appeared at the same time, and they also isolated the space. If the group of people in the alliance were not blind, they would come over. When the time comes, they will always find them if they check the surveillance cameras, and they will inevitably be questioned. A few people walked to a better cake shop in Mutong Town and ate delicious small cakes and desserts. About half an hour later, a group of planes flew over in the sky, the engines roared, and a group of people came down and blocked Mutong Town. Then after a while, a large group of people quickly came to the cake shop. Some of them were familiar, such as Dr. Yamanashi, Dr. Mr. Orchid, Dago, Sharona, and U, and some were unfamiliar, a group of high-level officials of the Alliance government. Hello, long time no see, everyone. Zahu sat on the chair and said leisurely. Sure enough, wherever there is a legendary Pokémon, there is you. Du said. There is no way, I'm too good, like a certain flying champion who chases legendary Pokémon every day and can't find it, but wherever I go, there are legendary Pokémon. Zahu said with a smug look. Who do you say is the flying champion? Du said with a dark face. Someone should not be so quick to identify. In addition, why are you here? Zahu said. Because I want to find the power to defeat you, so that you can recall the memories of being crushed by me. Du said. TSK, it's fun to bully the weak with the strong. Bullying me with only 4 Pokémon. Zahu said. It wasn't fun at first, but now that I think about it, it's especially fun. Du said word by word. Well, a poor champion who can only rely on memories of the past to have fun. I sympathize with you. Zahu said. Du took a deep breath. If I had known that this day would come, I would have gone to Zahu's research institute every day and abused Zahu 3 times a day. Now there is no chance. Okay, can you tell us what happened? Dago took over the conversation. No problem, the story is very simple. Arceus appeared just now. Zahu said. It's Arceus, why did it appear? And do you know about the ecology? Sharona said excitedly. As a historian and archaeologist, Arceus, the creator Pokémon, has a fatal attraction to her. It can even be said that it is more important than the champion. Life gem, do you know? Zahu said. I know. Sharona and others nodded one after another. After studying for a long time with Mitana, of course they knew. Before, it was in my hand, and I just returned it to Arceus. Zahu said. In your hand? How is that possible? The life gem has always been in my hand. A brown-haired girl next to Sharona looked at Zahu in surprise. In your hand? Are you the descendant of Damas? Zahu said. Yes, I'm his descendant, Hana. My ancestor made a mistake. I plan to see Arceus with my own eyes and make up for the mistake. Hana said. Made a mistake? Hasn't the history on your side been corrected yet? Zahu was a little surprised and then said. First of all, your ancestor Damas did not make a mistake. It was his assistant Chizin who betrayed Arceus, but Damas was tricked. So the life gem in your hand has always been fake, and the real one came into my hand some time ago. My ancestor did not betray Arceus. Hina was surprised. There was something wrong with her cognition, but she was full of joy. After all, no one wants their ancestor to be a villain. Yes, no, not long ago, I used the power of Dialga to travel through time and space and witnessed everything. You can ask Dialga. Zahu said. As the descendant of Damus, Hana has superpower and is a friend of Dialga. She can see him anytime she wants. Thank you, Hana said. But even so, the real life gem should be in Mitana. How did it get into your hands? Sharona asked curiously. This is thanks to the Galaxy team. Bayang Town, you know, and then you understand. Zahu spread his hands. The seizure from the airship. Sharona suddenly realized. That's right. Zahu spread his hands. Chapter 535. For the sake of world peace, don't mess with me. That's stolen property. A middle-aged man who was traveling with him looked at Zahu sharply and said, that's Arceus's stuff. It doesn't belong to anyone or any organization. Just now it was returned to Arceus. Everything went well. Zahu frowned slightly and said, it was discovered by the Alliance and belongs to the Alliance. Its ownership should be decided by the Alliance. It was taken away by the Galaxy team. You found it and should hand it over to the Alliance instead of keeping it privately. It's stolen property and it's illegal. The middle-aged man said arrogantly. So what? Zahu looked at this person with amusement. The owner of the life jewel belonged to Arceus, and Arceus never blamed him. What right do these people have to nag about it? Then we need you to cooperate with the work, correct your attitude, come back to the police station with me, and tell me everything you know, and then we will decide on your punishment for this negligence. The middle-aged man was arrogant, and several people behind him were actually ready to take action. Stop. Dr. Yamanashi shouted angrily. What do these idiots want to do? Drive Yamanashi, this has nothing to do with academics. I hope you won't interfere. The middle-aged man said. The life gem is a discovery of our academic community. How can it have nothing to do with us? Cheyenne Ben, don't make trouble out of nothing. Zahu's matter is not a big deal. Dr. Yamanashi said with a cold face. With his social status and connections, not to mention Cheyenne Ben, even Cheyenne Ben's boss is not qualified to play a rival. What about his behavior in Bayang Town? He acted privately and almost caused the entire town of Bayang Town to be destroyed. We now doubt whether he has the ability to become an excellent trainer, so we must focus on monitoring and temporarily take back his Pokémon. Then, after observation, we can draw a definite conclusion and make sure that he has no problem and then return the Pokémon to him. Cheyenne Ben said, what did you say? Zahu showed a bit of sneer in his eyes. Ask him to hand over the Pokémon? At first, I thought it was some fool or he didn't know the situation and was used to showing off his power. Now it seems that someone wants to target him. We are responsible for the people and for the safety of the people. I hope you can understand. As a Pokémon doctor and former champion, I believe you have this awareness. Cheyenne Ben said. Enlightenment? Zahu showed a hint of ridicule on his face, and he swung the Pokéball and released the armored dragon. Send that fat guy to the sky. Zahu pointed at Cheyenne Ben and said, and the armored dragon quickly swung his fist, sent Cheyenne Ben to the sky, and then fell heavily to the ground and fainted. My teacher often said that I'm a useless person, and I have no enlightenment at all. Don't tell me what enlightenment is. Zahu said with a good student look. You dare to do it? A group of government officials of the SYNOPSIS League looked at Zahu in disbelief, and they didn't expect Zahu to attack them. What else? Zahu shrugged. Sharona, he is attacking government officials now. As the champion of the SYNOPSIS League, you don't care? One of the officials looked at Sharona and said. Sharona raised her eyebrows slightly. She was not on the same side with this group of people. Whether it was family relations or the parties in the alliance, they were not together. It was just that sometimes they had to cooperate and come forward, but now this group of guys actually threw such a difficult problem to her and wanted to use her. Sharona, don't be embarrassed. As a gentleman, I won't embarrass a beautiful lady like you. Zahu said with a smile. A group of officials of the alliance were surprised and laughed secretly. They didn't expect that this guy would have a good impression of Sharona and compromise so easily. Du felt something was wrong. Although Zahu's character was not very good, he couldn't be partial to a beautiful girl in front of Kona. There was something wrong. Do it. An official of the alliance said, and several people were ready to confiscate Zahu's treasure ball. Staff-tailed scaled armored dragon. Zahu shouted, and the staff-tailed scaled armored dragon quickly took action and attacked a group of people. With the tail, they all fell to the ground with serious injuries. Zahu. Sharona's face changed suddenly. Although these people were a little mean, their status was not low at all. I said, I won't embarrass you. Let them all fall down, isn't it? Zahu said with a smile. I don't want to fight with you, but it's hard for me to do it if you do this. Sharona said. It's not difficult. For the sake of peace in Sinop, you have to compromise with me. This is a heroic act. Zahu said. What do you mean? Sharona's heart skipped a beat. She always felt that there was something wrong with Zahu's words. Maybe I'm really too good-tempered, so many people think I'm easy to bully. What are you talking about? The harm is too great. We need to pay close attention. Then I will just say it. Kyogre and Groudon can destroy a continent. I have 4 Pokémon that are no worse than them. Do you think I can break through Sinop? Zahu said with a smile. Zahu, calm down. Dago's face changed immediately. Others did not know the strength of Zahu's Pokémon, but the champions knew it best. If Zahu really made trouble lawlessly, although the Alliance had the ability to subdue Zahu, the price paid was so high that the Alliance could not mature at all. It is really possible to destroy a continent, as Zahu said. And how many people are there on a continent? There's nothing I can do. Maybe it's because I'm really easy to talk to. A group of people think I'm easy to bully. When the battle in the Kanto Sea just ended, there was a group of people in the Alliance who wanted me to hand over the Leaf King and the others to the Alliance, but they didn't succeed in the end. I was too lazy to pay attention to them at the time, and I was studying the evolution stone, so I didn't care. But now that I'm in Sinop, someone is actually asking me to hand over my Pokémon. Are you tired of living? Zahu sneered. You all know who I am. Destroying the world or becoming the king has nothing to do with me. I just want to live a leisurely life and do some research when I have nothing to do. But there is always a group of people with persecution complexes and an absurd desire for control who want to confront me. Then I can only say that if you don't want millions or even tens of millions of people to be buried with me, then don't bother me. Everything is for the people and for the sake of the overall situation. These sacrifices are necessary. Just bear with the anger for a while, be a hero, and suffer a little from me. It's okay, right? Zahu, calm down. It's hard to say anything else, but I can assure you that the Kanto and Johto alliances are your strongest backing, and the Yulong family is also your best partner. Don't make things irreversible. The rest is to dismantle the Sinnoh alliance, and I can accompany you. Du said. Yes, you are still the champion recognized by the Hone League, and the Zifachi family is also your best friend. Whether it is the Hone League headquarters or the Sinnoh League headquarters, you said, I will help you to dismantle it. As long as it does not violate major league laws. A bunch of jumping clowns. Don't pay attention to it. Dago said. This is also the idea of me, Oak, Damaranchi, and Arkranli. Unless the world is destroyed, the league will always stand behind you. Dr. Yamanashi also said. Sharona opened her mouth and wanted to comfort Zahu. After all, Zahu is now crazy with all his strength, which is too scary, but she and Zahu are not too familiar with each other, and it seems awkward to say that the league will be dismantled. Moreover, the Sinnoh League is her protection, and it is not a little embarrassing to dismantle the league she protects. Of course, I'm joking. Zahu smiled. Of course, he has no interest in destroying the world and making a massacre. Moreover, most of the alliances have normal brains and will not want to deal with Zahu. They even recognize Zahu's entry into their interest group. It's just that most of them are normal and there are very few people with brain problems. If they don't scare them, they will not learn their lesson. Chapter 536 Reactions from all parties. Did he really say that? In a mansion somewhere in the Sinnoh region, a middle-aged man looked at the video and said, yes, that's what he meant. It's very clear. Don't mess with him. The person in the video responded respectfully. Okay, I get it. Then ignore him and continue to study the super ancient Pokémon. The middle-aged man said, yes, sir. The middle-aged man hung up the phone and turned to look out the window. This was just a test. If Zahu cooperated, he would take the opportunity to take a few special Pokémon for a search. He would kill first and report later. At that time, Zahu and his group would have no choice. But now, Zahu refused, so let it go. Anyway, Zahu also knows the limit. It's just that a group of younger brothers got beaten. Anyway, as a younger brother, isn't it to take the beating for the boss? Looking at the leisurely white clouds, the middle-aged man's thoughts became more and more firm. Zehu, who controls 5 top-level beasts, is too threatening to the Alliance and humans. It's like a bomb that explodes from time to time and must be controlled and restrained. The research of super ancient Pokémon is imminent, and he needs to know that he is not the only one who has such power. Team Galaxy headquarters. Chiri listened to the news reported by his undercover in the Alliance, rubbed his eyebrows and said, that is to say, the appearance of Dialga and Palkia is because of Arceus. Any other news? Chiri said. Zehu seems to be angry and asked everyone to be honest and not to provoke him for the sake of world peace. The undercover said. That kid. Chiri's eyes flashed with a sinister look. The 3 senior cadres under his command were all arrested because of Zehu, and the life gem was also robbed. It would be a lie to say that they did not hate Zehu. In order to retaliate, he even cooperated with the rocket team remotely to deal with Hinako. As a result, all the people sent out were lost, and their lives and deaths were unknown. Most of them were dead. As for Zyos he and others, because they involved the lake gods such as Imrito, he not only could not hurt them, but also had to protect them before the goal was achieved. Don't mention how aggrieved he was. If you see him, stay away from him. Kairi said. Yes. The undercover said, thinking, even if you don't say it, I will. No one dares to mess with that guy now. What about Jay? Can he be fished out? Kairi said, he had no one under his command, so he had to dig something else. It's not a big problem, but a violent salamander can't be found. The undercover said. Then catch another one for her, and let her train it herself. Kairi said. Okay. Hurry up and act. The capture of Imrido and the others must be accelerated. And please contact those who are doing research on super ancient Pokémon for me. We can try to cooperate. If they get me the Diamond Jade Soul and the White Jade Soul, I can provide them with more super ancient Pokémon information. No one is better than our Galaxy team at studying ancient history. Kairi said. Okay, contact them right away. Mutong Town. Dago and Sharona sat around a round table. The situation is confirmed. Nothing serious. It's just that Arceus' power has recovered. Du said. You two are planning to dismantle us in our alliance together with Zehu, and you still say it's no big deal? Sharona said unhappily. To appease Zehu. Otherwise if Zehu really makes trouble, the world will be in chaos, especially now that he knows Arceus. According to the relationship between Zehu and a top-level mythical beast, he will become friends with the top-level mythical beast. Now there is probably another backer. If there is a commotion, the world will fall apart. Dago said. I agree. Du said. I think if Zehu really wants to take action, you will cooperate very well. Sharona looked at the two people and said. Dago and Du smiled at each other. Will they? It depends on the situation. As long as the situation is right, then they will. At worst, he will never come to Synod again and stay at home honestly. With the relationship between their families, it will not be affected at all. It's all a small matter. As long as a group of people don't have bad brains, Zehu won't cause trouble. And according to the current plan, when the generation of President Damalanchi is gone, Zehu will enter the decision-making level of the alliance. Whether to go to Kanto or Hana is still under discussion. Even if Zehu really goes in, it will only cause a bigger storm. Du said. It's really special to be favored by two presidents at the same time. Sharona said. You have a clean background, and there is no big family behind you. Unlike the three of us, even if we don't mean it, there is still family influence behind us. No matter what we do, we will help the family invisibly. The purpose of establishing the alliance is to eradicate the nobles and protect the common people. Dago said. After all, some people are indeed getting more and more excessive these days. It's time to clean them up. Du said. Why Team Rocket still exists for so many years? Because there are too many people in the alliance who need Team Rocket, and there are too many forces behind Team Rocket. You two, it seems that you are the heirs of the largest families in each other's regions. Cleaning up the family will not be good for you. Sharona said. Yeah, but there's no harm. Survival of the fittest. If you're unqualified, you lose. Don't be petty. Du said indifferently. the direct descendants of the Yulong family. The original Pokémon is a mini dragon. They grew up together. After adulthood, they were given a small dragon. In this case, if they lose in a fair competition, they deserve it. It's fair, just and open. It doesn't matter. Anyway, no matter what form it takes, I will always win. If it weren't for the family factor, I wouldn't have to be the champion. I would just dig stones. Dago said that in the same situation, as long as it is a fair way, his family is not inferior to others. That's right, the world is so big, and it's more comfortable to stay in one place. Do said. You two really talk without any pain in your waist, and you still think that the champion is uncomfortable. Sharona said. What? You really want to be the champion? Do said. I'm not interested in the power of the champion, but I'm the strongest. Sharona said. Please add the word Sinnoh in front of the strongest. Dago said. Then why don't you try it now? Sharona's eyes flashed with a hint of fighting spirit. Okay, strictly speaking, I haven't lost yet. Dago said. Although he was no match for Zahu now, he had let Zahu win the previous match, so it didn't count. Even if the two of you decide the winner, you're not the strongest. Zahu is not dead, so don't fight. Do said. That's right, there's no point in winning. Dago said. Study Super Evolution carefully. If you can master it perfectly, you won't be really weak against the Pokémon in Zahu's hand. Do said. That's right, but the desserts in this store are pretty good. I think some of them are very good. I'll eat them before I leave. Sharona said, and then she stood up and walked inside. I'll leave first. Dago said. Don't you wait. Do asked curiously. Huh, you wait first. Dago smiled, like a person with difficulty choosing ice cream. I hope you can come out in half an hour. Do was confused. On the other side, after Zahu and Articuno parted ways, they continued to move towards the direction of Cutting Edge City. During this time, he heard that there was a place called Strongwind Town, which was about to hold an aerial ring competition. Kajiro's eyes glowed, and he stared at Zahu with great enthusiasm. Zahu said, change the route. Chapter 537 Strongwind Town. 1, 2, 1, 2. Come on, Pidgeot, do some exercise with me. On the hillside of Strongwind Town, Kajiro was doing warm-up exercises actively, which was rare. Pidgeot beside him was doing the same exercise, twisting its wings to warm up. Monini followed him, and the three little cuties did exercise, forming a beautiful landscape. Zahu and Kona sat on one side, watching the surrounding scenery. Glancing at Kajiro and the other two from the corner of his eye, Zahu couldn't help but curl up his lips slightly. I have known this guy for so many years, but this is the first time I have seen him prepare for a game so seriously. It shows that it is true love. Kona said. It is true love, and there are special teachers to teach. It's just that this aerial ring competition seems a bit low class, and it can only be a competition in a small rural area. Zahu said. Aerial ring competition. It is a competition in which Pokémon ring trainers and Pokémon form a team to throw the ring into the target. Pokémon need to fight in the air while grabbing the ring hanging on the balloon, and the team that hangs the ring into the hook on the target first wins the game. Because during the battle, there will be strong winds from time to time, and there may even be tornadoes, so it is a test of the command of the Pokémon trainer and the combat ability of the Pokémon. It is just these restrictions that determine that only a few places can be held. There is only a Kodo Town in Hana and Strongwind Town in Sinnoh. It is a small competition, and the rewards are very low. The winner only gets the honor of an honorary town citizen. Hobbies. There is no low end or high end. Don't be worldly, as long as it does not harm the world. Hobbies. Just have fun. The gorgeous competition has now grown to the point where it can be comparable to the league conference, but at the beginning, the gorgeous competition was just a group of people who were rejected by mainstream trainers and thought it was just a show. Kona said. That's right, hobbies, as long as you have fun, what's the difference? Besides, wealth and status, Kajiro has them, since he was born, so he doesn't have to struggle at all. Zahu said. So, just have fun. Kona said. Then what do you think? Should I participate too? Zahu asked. Participate too? Which Pokémon are you going to use? Dragonite, Loki, Salamander, Togekiss? Then, it will be adults bullying children again. Isn't that shameful? Besides, it's rare for Kajiro to work so hard, except for making money. This is the first time I've seen it. Do you have the nerve to let his wish go unfulfilled? Kona said. Then forget it, Zahu said angrily. Although he didn't feel guilty about bullying children, it was rare for Kajiro to be so serious. It's better not to ruin his wish. Brother. A voice suddenly sounded during the chat. Zahu looked up in surprise and saw Zaozi and his group of 4 running over. He couldn't help but grin and said, I almost forgot that every time there is such an annual, once in a decade competition, there is always Zaozi. It's not easy for Kajiro to win the championship this time. His opponent has a future flying master. It all depends on personal strength. Kajiro's Pidgeot and he have a good tacit understanding. Kona smiled. Brother, why are you guys here too? As he was talking, Zaozi had already come to his side. Because I was passing by and heard that there was an aerial ring competition. Your brother Kajiro wanted to participate, so I accompanied him. Zahu said. Aerial ring competition. There is one here, so I will sign up for it too. Zaozi said excitedly. He had participated in the aerial ring competition in Yokodo Town in Hone and won the championship. As expected, prepare well. Your brother Kajiro is not serious about other things, but he is completely serious about the aerial ring competition. It is not easy for you to beat him. Zahu said. I will try my best, but brother, won't you participate? Zaozi said. I will give you the opportunity. Zahu said. I also want to compete with brother in the competition and beat brother. Zaozi said. Zahu raised his eyebrows. Who gave you the confidence to make you feel that you can beat me? He turned his head and looked at Kona again. I can't control myself anymore. What should I do? Kona gave him a look and said calmly, go home and fight again. Brothers are close. There will always be opportunities to clean up. Zahu took a deep breath and said that he would fight again later. There would always be a chance. By the way, brother, my Infernape evolved into Infernape. Zaozi took out the Pokeball, and a monkey that looked like a peeking opera face changing appeared on the field, full of energy, and couldn't help jumping up as soon as it appeared. Evolved. Zahu smiled, reaching out to touch Infernape's head. This Infernape, which had a miserable fate and made people sigh, is now living a happy life because it is no longer trained by Shinji. Infernape jumped for joy, knowing that Zahu was no one else, and was very close to Zahu. Brother, let's have a fight. Let's use Infernape. Zaozi said. Are you sure? Zahu looked at Zaozi with amusement, worrying that he had no legitimate reason to abuse you. Yeah, come on, brother, let's use Scutalaria, both are fighting type. Zaozi said. Kona looked at Zaozi with pity and said that his sister-in-law couldn't save you, so don't blame her. If you use the armored dragon, I'm not afraid that you will be beaten into autism. The key is that Infernape is being bullied. Use Parasaurolophus. Zahu said. Armored dragon, evolved into the armored dragon? Zaozi said in surprise. That's right. Zahu smiled and nodded, then released Parasaurolophus. Okay, Infernape, let's do it. Zaozi said to Infernape. Then, both the man and the pet were excited at the same time. You attack first. Zahu stood up and said. Although he could command even when sitting, it seemed that he looked down on his opponent. Okay, Infernape, use Sonic Punch. Zaozi shouted. Infernape suddenly jumped, and his right hand flashed with white light and hit Parasaurolophus hard. Monkeys are agile animals, and with the attribute of fighting, the power of Infernape's punch is not enough, but the speed is first class. Parasaurolophus, dodge. Zahu said. Parasaurolophus shook its body slightly, and at the moment, when it was about to be hit, it found an opportunity to dodge a punch, and Infernape only missed. What a fast speed. Infernape has evolved, but it can't attack. Xiaoguang said in surprise. Brother Zahu's Parasaurolophus, it's expected. Anyway, Zaozi has never defeated Brother Zahu in all these years, unless it's a 6-on-6 situation. He can win 1 or 2, but he has never won the game. Why don't we discuss the fighting skills of the gorgeous competition with Kajiro? There's nothing to see. The result is destined. Xiaoxia said. Xiaoguang nodded and went to the side with Xiaoxia to find Kajiro. Only Xiaogang and Pikachu still stood firmly behind Zaozi. Parasaurolophus, Steel Tail. Parasaurolophus' tail swung violently, and a bright white metallic luster appeared at the end of the tail, and it hit Infernape brazenly. Infernape was caught off guard, and fell to the side. Infernape, are you okay? Zyozzy said anxiously. Infernape shook his head to show that it was fine. Although the power of the Iron Tail was strong, the fire type was resistant to steel, so the damage was not particularly great. Okay, spray the flames. Zyozzy said excitedly. Infernape suddenly contracted his abdomen, and the burning fire energy brewed in his body, and then burst out and sprayed out, heading straight for Parasaurolophus. Parasaurolophus, take it head on, absorb the punch. Zahu said. Parasaurolophus had a fierce expression, and the spiral power on his fists burst out, rushing into the flames and forcibly splitting the flames. Although a lot of flames fell on his body, he just pretended not to know, and punched Infernape hard, knocking Infernape away. Infernape showed a painful expression on his face. Although the Iron Tail just now resisted a lot of damage, because of its favorable attributes, it was thrown so hard that the physical damage was not small. Coupled with this punch absorbing the punch, the damage was not light at all. Parasaurolophus, can you rush into the flames without getting hurt? Zyozzy was surprised. Is this my style, to rush into the flames so recklessly? Keep fighting. Zahu looked indifferent. It was fine if others were surprised. After all, a grass-type Pokémon rushing into the flames was a way to death in the eyes of some people. But how could you, a master of reverse-type battles who was always so stubborn, be surprised? The power of the absorbed fist could disperse the power of the flames. With the absolute speed, it could be split. The remaining residual power would have limited damage to the Parasaurolophus. Moreover, with the physical strength of the Parasaurolophus, even if it was a complete hit, it would not be a big deal for the Parasaurolophus. Oh. Zyozzy reacted immediately. Infernape, come on, use Flame Wheel. Infernape spewed flames from its mouth, and its body formed a blazing ball of flames, rushing towards the Parasaurolophus. Parasaurolophus, get out of the way, Zahu said. Although Infernape's power was stronger than that of the little flame monkey, and was already at the elite level, it could only be said to be an elite of the average level. Compared with the Parasaurolophus, it was still far behind. The Parasaurolophus moved swiftly, and dodged the attack of Infernape with a single step. Infernape, increase the power of your rotation, and continue to use the flame wheel. Zyozzy said. The flames on the body of the Infernape that had just hit the ground had not completely dissipated, but it immediately spun and exploded again, turning back to attack again. Iron Tail hits the ground. Zahu's voice sounded almost at the same time. Parasaurolophus moved without thinking, hitting the ground with its tail, and quickly flew into the sky, dodging Infernape's attack again. Not bad. There is almost no interval between the two attacks. The combination is perfect. It's a good combination move. For ordinary people, after dodging the first attack, they will subconsciously relax, and it will be difficult to dodge the second attack. Zahu nodded in praise. But, I still can't attack you, brother. Zyozzy said with a hint of frustration, thinking that he would definitely succeed. You still have a long way to go to beat me. The warm-up is over. Parasaurolophus, attack with all your strength. Sonic Fist. Zahu said. The speed of the Parasaurolophus increased rapidly, and its two arms, which looked short, suddenly stretched and extended. It attacked fiercely with lightning speed, and its fists hit Infernape like raindrops. Finally, a fierce blow hit Infernape's vitals, and Infernape fell to the ground, covered with scars, and in a mess. Infernape, are you okay? Zyozzy said worriedly. Infernape stood up firmly, and said that he was fine. Although he was injured, his eyes were firm. Parasite, use the Sonic Punch again. Zahu said. Parasaurolophus attacked quickly, and attacked with one punch. Infernape, dig a hole quickly. Infernape quickly dug a hole and went underground. Parasaurolophus's punch missed, and his expression was slightly confused. Parasite, use the sleeping powder on the hole in trance. Zahu said. Parasaurolophus lowered his head, and a large piece of hypnotic powder was emitted from the Parasaurolophus mushroom on his head. Not good. Infernape, use the flame wheel quickly, and get out of it. Zyozzy said in surprise. Infernape immediately jumped up from the ground, with flames spinning on his body, and rushed towards Parasaurolophus again. Seeing Infernape flying out, Zahu's mouth curled up slightly. I've been waiting for you. Iron-tail, speed up the rotation. Parasaurolophus tail was pulled out sharply and hit Infernape's flame wheel. The rotation speed of the flame wheel suddenly increased, and like a spinning top, Infernape was hit into the sky. The flame wheel fell to the ground again, revealing Infernape's appearance, but because of several high-speed rotations, his head was dizzy, as if he saw stars. Parasaurus, sleep powder. Zahoo smiled. The mushroom on the top of Parasaurus' head spread a large amount of sleep powder, hitting Infernape, who was still confused, and Infernape fell asleep. Keep training, I'll wait for you at the Sinnoh tournament. Zahoo smiled, and the depression of not being able to participate in the aerial ring competition disappeared in an instant, and he was happy. Beating his brother, whenever he had something to do, was indeed the best way to be happy. Chapter 538, Aerial Ring Competition. The aerial ring competition will start in the afternoon. Kojiro and Satoshi are sharpening their swords and preparing to show their skills. Zahoo and his group are sitting in the audience. The atmosphere is much more enthusiastic than Zahoo expected. The entire stadium is full of spectators, and the crowds are huge. In addition, there is also the host of Sinnoh's popular program Sinnoh, now Miss Yuka Live broadcast. The number of participants is a little less, only 16 people. The first game begins. It is the competition between Team Satoshi and Team Tichiro. Yuka's voice sounded, and Satoshi jumped on the hot air balloon excitedly when he heard his name, ready to take off and fight. The game started quickly, and Satoshi released Mako and his opponent released Armored Bird. The result of the game, of course, is needless to say. Satoshi won. Although the opponent's Armored Bird is also strong, and may even be slightly stronger, it would be strange if he didn't lose in the first round against Satoshi. The second match begins between Team Baruto and Team Shinji. Team Baruto has been the champion for 4 consecutive years and is also the favorite for this match. Miss Yuka announced. Zahoo looked at the screen curiously and found Shinji's photo on it. He smiled and said, I didn't expect that even Shinji is here. It's a pity that he didn't participate. Zyraksha's mouth twitched slightly and she whispered to Meow. She asked, Brother Zahoo, have you collected all the ribbon medals? I have collected 3, plus the ribbon medals of the 2 Macaulay Cups before. He has collected all the ribbon medals. Meow. Meow said. That's good. Zyraksha breathed a sigh of relief. At least before the final large-scale celebration, she would not meet Brother Zahoo again. Boy, if you meet me, be prepared to lose. Baruto looked at Shinji with a mocking face. As the champion of 4 consecutive times, he was very confident. Shinji looked at Baruto coldly, as if he was looking at a fool. Baruto felt embarrassed and immediately released his trump card Pokémon, Dragonite. Hey, see Dragonite again. Why does it feel like Dragonite has lost its quasi-god status and is almost becoming a common stock? Zahoo said in the audience. As long as you are lucky and encounter a cub, you can certainly capture it. 1 in a million. There are tens of millions of people in Sinnoh. Kona said. That's right, but this Dragonite is only about 1.9 meters tall, about 0.3 meters shorter than a normal Dragonite, and the size of its wings is slightly smaller than a normal Dragonite. The thickness of its feet is not particularly qualified, and its skin color is a bit dull. Overall, it has been poorly cultivated. It should not even be at the level of aqua-seeking. It just relies on its innate genetic race value to reach the elite level. The training of the trainer is poor. Zahoo said. Brother Zahoo, you can still see clearly from such a distance? Zyaraguang said in amazement. If you deal with Pokémon every day, measure physical data, and keep writing reports, you can do it too. Zahoo said with a smile. So this game, there is not much suspense. Kona said, Shinji's Crowhead is at the level of a high-level elite, and that Dragonite is no match. The following match was like a verification of Kona's prediction. Dragonite launched a series of attacks on Crowhead without grabbing the ring. Shinji responded calmly and dodged without attacking. When Dragonite showed a flaw, he quickly killed it with a trick, clean and neat. Next is Kojiro, right? Kona said. Yes, let's watch Kojiro's performance. The noble boy who has studied professionally with the master should be different. Zahoo smiled. Speaking of which, this was his first time to watch Kojiro's aerial ring competition. Kajiro was standing on a hot air balloon floating in the air, looking around with burning eyes to judge the wind direction. Strong Wind Town is most famous for its strong wind. If the wind is strong enough, it will not only blow away the ring, but also the Pokémon. Therefore, how to analyze the wind is the most critical skill in the Pokémon aerial ring competition. The difference between flying with the wind and flying against the wind is obvious. Kajiro's opponent is a boy named Sanping, and the Pokémon he uses is not a flying Pokémon, but a grass Pokémon called Shuttlecock Flower that can fly with the wind. Kajiro's eyes were bright, and he felt the flow of the wind around him. His whole body exuded a completely different aura. A breeze suddenly blew from the bottom up, and Kajiro's expression changed immediately. He shouted, "Pippi, it's time." Lightning flashes. Pippi suddenly moved, following the strong wind, and flew quickly into the sky. Giant Zihua, follow it. The boy Sanping shouted. With the airflow, Giant Zihua moved quickly, but it was not slower than the flying of ordinary bad Pokémon. The reason why Giant Zihua was chosen to participate in the battle was of course, because this boy did not have a bird flying Pokémon, but at the same time, Giant Zihua's characteristic of floating with the wind allowed Giant Zihua to judge the wind direction most sensitively, and use the wind. Pippi, violent storm. Kajiro shouted. Floating with the help of wind power is very labor saving, but if the wind changes, the situation will be very subtle. The Pidgeot flapped its wings vigorously, and a small tornado erupted. The shuttlecock was immediately trapped and unable to move. Then, the Pidgeot flew quickly, snatched the ring, and then hung in the ring below, winning directly. The competition continued, and amateur and professional players competed one after another. Xiaozi, Shinji, and Kajiro won consecutive games, and soon Xiaozi entered the finals. Then Kajiro and Shinji competed for the last place in the finals. Kajiro and Shinji rose to a high altitude and looked at each other. The two had known each other for a long time, but they had never fought each other. This was the first time they had a fair duel. Crow leader, go grab the ring, Shinji said. The crow leader flew quickly and went straight to the ring of the hot air balloon. As a non-professional aerial ring player, Shinji never looked at the wind direction. He just relied on his absolute strength to fight and didn't care about the wind direction. Pidgeot, use lightning flash and chase quickly, Kajiro said. Pidgeot turned into a streak of white light and pounced on the hot air balloon, biting the ring in the air. Crow Chief, use the divine bird smash, Shinji shouted. Crow Chief had a majestic aura, and a pale blue shadow of the divine bird appeared on his body. He had a majestic aura, and suddenly caught up with Pidgeot, hitting Pidgeot on the back. Pidgeot's body sank, and the ring in its mouth fell. Crow Chief, chase it, Shinji said, and Crow Chief hurriedly chased after it, biting the ring. Pidgeot, don't give up, use your wings to attack, Kajiro said. Pidgeot moved quickly, its wings shining white, and hit Crow Chief hard. Although the attack was not powerful, it won in frequency. Crow Chief, dodge, Shinji said. Crow Chief swiftly dodged to the side, just in time to avoid Pidgeot's attack. Pidgeot, speed up and use your wings to attack, Kajiro said. The crow's wings were like knives, and it launched an attack like a violent storm. Crow, get out of the way, and fly straight down, Shinji said. Now he only needed to hang the ring in his mouth down, and he could win. There was no need to fight with Pidgeot. Moreover, although Kajiro was not very good at fighting, he was good to Shinji, so Shinji did not want to be ruthless. Kajiro's eyes changed slightly, and he wanted to track it. Suddenly, he felt a change in the wind and immediately said, Pidgeot, stop. Pidgeot, which was about to dive at high speed, stopped quickly after hearing the order. Shinji was puzzled, and just asked Crow to speed up and rush down. Just when Crow was about to succeed, a strong gust of wind suddenly blew from the ground, from bottom to top, and blew Crow backwards, and the ring in his mouth fell off. Pidgeot, this is the time, Kajiro said excitedly. Pidgeot flew quickly, and when the gust of wind dissipated, it quickly snatched the ring, and hung it down, winning the victory. A look of surprise flashed across Shinji's face, as if he had not expected that he would lose the game in this way. Chapter 539, The Glory of Evolution. Shinji lost the game, and the championship naturally fell to Xiaozi and Kajiro. Like Shinji, this was also Xiaozi's first time to fight Kajiro in a formal competition. He carried Pikachu on his shoulder and looked at Kajiro with a gleaming expression. Although he was not keen on the airing, Zyos he would try his best to win whenever he participated in the competition. The two Pokémon, Pidgeot and Muk, confronted each other in the air. Then, under the command of the trainer, the two Pokémon directly started a fierce battle. The two Pokémon can be regarded as a match made in heaven. They are both the second form of the house bird and have similar innate genes. Pidgeot has been with Kajiro for a long time, but from Pidgeot to now, it is still Pidgeot, which shows how Kajiro's training is, and Muk has experienced many battles under Zyossi, but the time is a bit short. The two Pokémons came and went in the air, and two white lights were seen flying in the air, but neither succeeded in taking the Pokémon ring. Kajiro's expression became more and more solemn. Although Zyossi on the opposite side was completely mediocre in judging the wind direction and was just a real novice, he couldn't resist Zyosi's good luck. The wind direction almost always favored Zyossi. In the battle just now, there were a total of 5 strong winds that suddenly came, 4 of which were favorable to Zyossi, and only 1 strong wind hindered it. No matter how experienced he was, he couldn't resist the opponent's luck. Zyossi was also anxious. He didn't expect Kajiro to be so strong. The battle was in a stalemate, and no one was sure which side the victory would eventually tilt to. Just below the hanging ring, a tornado of more than 10 meters high suddenly broke out, just wrapping up the hot air balloon hanging with the ring. Pidgeot and Muk were hit and retreated one after another, barely surviving. "What is this?" Xiaoguang said in surprise. "The strong wind unique to Strong Wind Town. Unfortunately, I just happened to encounter it today," Zahu explained. "The wind is so strong that Pidgeot and Muk can't get close. We can only wait until the wind stops before we can grab the ring," Xiaoguang said. Zahu raised his eyebrows in disapproval. Facing such a storm, Zyojiro would definitely avoid the sharp edge first, but Zyossi, "It's too troublesome to keep waiting. Muk, show your courage, let everyone see your strength, and rush in." Zyossi shouted as expected. Muk's eyes were firm, and its wings flapped quickly, turning into a white light, and it plunged into the storm, and flew towards the ring. Zyojiro was shocked and looked at Zyossi in disbelief. Although he always knew that Zyossi was reckless, he never thought that he would be so reckless. It was a storm, and Muk was really brave. Just when Zyojiro was shocked, Pidgeot made a sharp cry and then flapped its wings vigorously, urging Zyojiro anxiously, indicating that it also wanted to go in. "Pidgeot, it's very dangerous in there, are you sure?" Zyojiro said worriedly. Baby Pidgeot flapped its wings continuously. It didn't care. Since the opponent rushed in, it would also rush in. "Okay, let's fight once. The boss often said that I was timid and cowardly. Let's take a gamble," Kajiro said fiercely. "Pidgeot, let's rush in too." Pidgeot flapped its wings excitedly and rushed into the storm without hesitation. At that moment, the two home birds were all swept away by the storm. Zahu in the audience was dumbfounded when he saw Kajiro's actions. It was normal for Zyossi to rush in. It was natural for this guy to be impulsive and not lose his mind temporarily, but Kajiro was more rational. It was not fun to rush into the storm without strength. The following development was exactly as Zahu expected. Pidgeot and Muk lost control of their bodies at almost the same time and were swept away by the strong wind, like a kite with a broken string. Ujiya, the host of the live broadcast, was also stunned. Why are the contestants so hot-tempered these days? If they rush into a big storm, can't they wait a little longer? There will be no champion this year. Is this a big stain on my hosting career? How can I make up for it? Mako, don't give up. I believe you can do it. Zyossi looked focused and roared. In the storm, Mako remembered every bit of his time with Zyossi when he trained Bravabird to attack. The trainer used himself as a target to attack him, and the care he usually gave to him. A sense of unwillingness rose from his heart. He didn't want his trainer to be disappointed. The strong unwillingness turned into substantial power. A strong white light burst out from Mako, and his body became bigger, his claws longer, and his eyes became more fierce. He broke through the strong wind and took off the ring. What an amazing performance. Zyos's Mako evolved into Muckhawk, successfully broke through the storm, and got the ring. Then the outcome of this game is decided, Yuka said in surprise. there will be no accidents. It's good to have a champion. And with Pokémon evolving, the ratings will be higher. Sure enough, the airing must evolve. Zyos is good luck, ordinary people. Zahu laughed dumbly and was about to say that ordinary people couldn't compare, but he was halfway through his words when he saw that Kajiro's Pidgeot, which had not evolved for many years, suddenly burst into a strong white light. Bang! This slap on the face hurt a little. However, I almost forgot that the person opposite was not an ordinary person, but the real protagonist. Kajiro's Pidgeot was full of white light, and when the light dissipated, it had already turned into Pidgeot, which was half a head taller than before, and looked even more magical and extraordinary. Pidgeot, you finally evolved. Hurry up and grab the ring back. Kajiro said ecstatically. Pidgeot immediately took action, flew out as fast as an arrow from a bow, and appeared behind Mukahawk as if teleporting, with a perfect burst of flying speed of 2 Mach. Although they are both home birds, and Mukahawk is better than Pidgeot in attacking, and can automatically learn the trick of close combat, but in terms of speed, Pidgeot completely beats Mukahawk. Pidgeot suddenly came, and Muk showed a trace of panic. He didn't expect that Pidgeot could fly so fast. Pidgeot flapped its wings and hit Muk's body, knocking off the ring, and then quickly snatched it away, and hung it below, winning in one fell swoop. Oh yeah, I won. Kajiro cheered excitedly. Pidgeot also happily flew to Kajiro's side, flapped its wings, and flew a few circles in the air. Finally, it evolved into Pidgeot, and its whole body felt comfortable. Zahu in the audience saw this scene and inexplicably had tears in his eyes. How should I put it? In my lifetime, I can see Kajiro beat Zyossi once, which is really a blessing. Although it is not a particularly glorious thing to use a Pokémon that has been captured for almost 4 years to beat Zyos's Pokémon that he has just captured for half a year. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540 Aerial Battle Contest. Calm down, okay? It's just a champion of the aerial ring competition. Zahu said to Kajiro, who was so excited that he couldn't control himself after winning the competition. Boss, you don't know that when I was a child, there was a very famous aerial ring master who taught me aerial ring fighting. During that time, I injured in human training. Now I finally made these training meaningful. Kajiro said happily. Okay, then you can continue to have fun. When you're done, get out of the way and let Pidgeot Mega Evolve. Zahu said unhappily. Oh. Kajiro was immersed in silly joy and couldn't extricate himself. Zahu really couldn't care less, so he let Kajiro be happy. He turned to look at Shinji and said, it's rare for you to come to these competitions. How are your gym badges now? I already have 6, and there are only 2 left. I'll have them all. Shinji said. Well, brother, I also got 6 gym badges, and there are only 2 left. I'll have them all. Zyossi came over and said. In that case, I have the fewest gym badges. I only have 5 so far. I need to work harder. Zahu said. The number of gym badges is not necessarily related to strength. Brother Zahu is stronger than us. There is no doubt about that. Shinji said. You are still so reluctant to joke. You are so young, but you have a stern face. I think you are not targeting me and your brother, but Kamishiro. Zahu smiled. He has always had a very dark idea that he is embarrassed to say out loud. That is, he thinks Shinji and Kamishiro look about 50% similar. What secret is there? It's hard to say. Brother Zahu, my brother and Mr. Kamishiro are all people who are ahead of me, and they are all my targets. Shinji said. Then what are your plans next? Zahu said. There is a strong wind canyon near Strong Wind Town. An aerial battle competition will be held soon. Even the famous aerial battle master of SYNOPSIS, Mr. Kozo, will come to watch, so I plan to go and participate. Shinji said. Kozo? I've heard of him. He's a famous aerial combat master who's good at distinguishing air currents. But I remember that he seems to have retired and is basically semi-secluded. I didn't expect him to appear here again. Zahu said. That's because the aerial combat in Strongwind Canyon is held together with Mr. Hare, a famous sky trainer in the Kalos region. Strongwind Canyon will be the first place in the Sinnoh region where a sky trainer will appear, Shinji said. Cooperating with the Kalos region, that's very interesting, Zahu said. Brother, what is a sky trainer? Zyos asked curiously. It's a professional trainer unique to the Kalos Canyon and the Kalos region. Because the Kalos Canyon will automatically generate an upward air current, as long as you wear a special flying suit, you can use this air current to glide over the Kalos Canyon, so the trainer can fly and fight with Pokémon. It's one of the characteristics of the Kalos region, Zahu said. Although he has never been to the Kalos region, some of the characteristics can be easily found on the internet, and are familiar with them. It's fun to fly with Pokémon. Brother, let's go and join in together, Zyos said excitedly. I'll check the details first. If it's okay, let's join in together. After all, it's really nice to be able to fly in the sky by yourself. I also want to experience the profession of sky trainer, Zahu said with a smile. He just watched Zyos and his group's competition and he also felt a little itchy. Kona smiled at the side, knowing that Zahu couldn't help it, so he took out the laptop beside him and searched the internet for relevant information. He quickly confirmed the specific information and said with a little surprise, it's really a big competition. Not only Kozum, but also Kalos famous sky trainer Yushang and Hone region's flying gym trainer Naki will host and participate. The winner can get the title of Sky Brave. His name will be entered into the newly built hall in Strongwind Canyon for future generations to visit, and a sharp bird beak as a reward. Sky Brave? The reward for entering the hall? Sharp bird beak. These 3 rewards added together are almost catching up with the Whirlpool Islands competition in Johto, Zahu said. The sharp bird beak alone is as good as the mysterious water drop, and there is also a reward for leaving your name. People need face, and trees need bark. Generally speaking, good honors are something that everyone wants, and the more the better. Especially for young trainers who travel with a heart full of blood and ambition. Money and interests are nothing but clouds, and what they want is fame. That's right, but judging from the publicity, it's almost catching up with the Macaulay Cup. With the 3 top elite flying masters and the sharp beak as rewards, there shouldn't be a lack of experts coming, Kona said. Then I'll just go and have some fun. After all, how can a flying master like me miss this kind of flying competition? Zahu said with a smile. Everyone agreed and quickly decided to head to the Strongwind Canyon. The Strongwind Canyon is not far from Strongwind Town. Zahu and his friends walked for about a day and arrived at the location. When they arrived, there was a battle going on in the sky above the canyon. A man and a woman, both wearing special wingsuits, floated in the air with the help of rising air currents, commanding the Pokémon to fight, and the battle was very lively. Zyos was so excited that he said, brother, this is the sky trainer? What an interesting trainer profession. Zahu nodded with no objection, standing on the edge of the cliff, feeling the strong air currents rising from the bottom of the cliff, and slightly scratching his face. He thought to himself, no wonder this place can be used as a flying venue. It's really good. Looking around, he saw strange rocks everywhere, complex terrain, and extremely fast wind changes. If he couldn't distinguish them, he would be at a disadvantage. After a little thought, he had already made a plan in his mind, and said to Zyos, we are here relatively early. The competition will be held in 3 days. Now we go to the club to sign up, and rent wingsuits for training, so as not to be unable to fly when the time comes. Zyos and his friends certainly had no objection. On the contrary, they seemed to be eager to put on this special wingsuit to experience the feeling of self-flying. Entering the club, it was surprising that the person in charge of registration was Miss Joy. Zahu couldn't help but ask curiously, Miss Joy, why are you here? This is not the Pokémon Center, right? That's because there will be an air battle soon, and many Pokémon will come here. They will definitely get hurt at that time, so I will coordinate and work here for a while. In addition, being responsible for competition registration is something I often do, so it is left to me. Miss Joy explained gently. I see, then I will sign up first. Pallet Town, Zahu. Zahu handed over something that could prove his identity. Zyos, Shinji, and Kujiro also signed up. Then professionals came to prepare wingsuits for Zahu and the others, and took them to the indoor simulation training room to simulate the flying scene. After all, even if you put on a wingsuit, flying is not an easy thing, and if you practice outside in the canyon, if you fall to your death, no one can afford the responsibility. In addition, because it was during the promotion period of the competition, all rental fees were waived, which saved Zahu a small amount of money. Chapter 541. You said my brother is not good enough. With the strong updraft, Zahu was wearing a special wingsuit and was lifted to a high altitude by the updraft, enjoying a different feeling. Following the movements in the tutorial, he began to adjust his body to fly in a small range. After practicing for more than an hour, Zahu barely mastered it. He left the simulation training room and breathed heavily. Have a drink of water. Kona handed the water he had prepared earlier to Zahu. Zahu was not polite and took it directly to look around. I just learned about the rules of the competition. There are currently many people who have signed up, so the organizer plans to conduct a 3-level battle. In the first round of the preliminaries, only 1 Pokémon can be sent. In the second round of the official competition, 2 Pokémon must be sent. In the third round of the elite competition, 3 Pokémon will be sent. Kona said. It doesn't matter, it's all the same. Zahu said. Have you prepared the Lanoop? Kona said. Pockets, Storm Salamander. Zahu said. You are so confident that no one can force you to send out the third one. Kona said. Except for Tyranitar and Togekiss, the remaining flying Pokémon I have are Lugia and Dragonite. If I send these 2, I don't need to consider any skills at all, just crush them. This is too bullying and not conducive to development. 2 is enough, and there are several Pokémon that can beat my Togekiss. Zahu said proudly. As one of his old partners, Togekiss is also first class among the king Pokémon. Kona smiled slightly and did not refute Zahu. If this group of contestants is not well organized, they may not even see Togekiss. After all, the super evolved Tyranitar is not easy to bully. Brother Zahu, sister Kona, you are here too. A crisp voice sounded. Zahu looked up curiously and saw that it was Manon and Alan. He couldn't help but smile and said, are you here to participate in this competition too? Well, when I passed by, I heard that there was a large competition here, so I planned to come and participate to practice the strength of Charizard. Alan said. This time, the air battle requires that only flying type Pokémon can participate. After your Charizard Mega evolves, it becomes a dual attribute of Fire and Dragon, which is against the rules. Zahu said. I will let Charizard fight in the form of Charizard. The main purpose is to train the aerial combat ability. Alan said. That's fine. I hope to fight with you. I don't think we have ever fought in a formal competition. Zahu said. He and Alan fought with all their strength, probably during the Hone. Zahu directly stripped Alan's body at that time, but it was not formal. The rest were even less. I'm looking forward to it. Alan said. Zahu nodded slightly. Alan also came, so this game will be really interesting. The 3 younger brothers can have a good time. After everyone chatted for a while, Alan and Manon put on special wingsuits and entered the simulation training room for training. Zahu and Kona went out and prepared to prepare for a real battle in the Grand Canyon outside. As soon as he went out, he saw Zyozzy hugging his own Scorpio King and comforting him. The Scorpio King was full of tears and huddled tightly in Zyozzy's arms, asking for comfort. Zahu was surprised. Zyozzy's physical fitness was slightly better than his, and he was really braver than him. After initially mastering it, he went to the Grand Canyon to fight in real life. Now he is crying because he was beaten. It's normal. After all, the wind direction outside is not simple, and it's not so easy to win. Zyozzy's Scorpio King, although he looks very powerful and fierce, is actually a cribby and a playboy. It has to be said that the first 3 seasons of Pokémon are very similar, with a live treasure in each season. Johto Crocodile, Hone Lobster Soldier, and Sinnoh Scorpio King. This Scorpio King is really weak. At this time, a girl and an old man came together and said with contempt, really, such a battle can't even be considered as killing time. Child, it will take a long time for you, the Scorpio King, to become stronger. The old man also shook his head. Zahu frowned and walked over and said, "What's going on? Brother Zahu, this is the aerial combat master of SYNOPSIS, Mr. Cos. He and Zyossi came out to fight at the same time, and they both won, so Mr. Cos invited Zyossi to fight, but Zyossi was suppressed by Mr. Cos throughout the battle, and he didn't even hit Mr. Cos's giant claw mantis with one move." Zyossi explained. "He didn't hit a single move, he was crushed like this." Zahu said. "Yeah. Mr. Cos has a strong control over the wind, and is very good at using the wind here. Zyossi is no match at all." Zyossi said. "Oh. So an old man who has only studied aerial combat all his life, and has no great achievements bullied a trainer who is not familiar with the environment, and he was complacent. That's what happened, right?" Zahu said. "What did you say?" Zahu's voice did not shrink at all, so Cos and his granddaughter also heard it. Cos's face was slightly gloomy, but Cos's granddaughter couldn't help but say, "What? Did I say something wrong?" Zahu said. "Losing the game is nothing. If Zyossi challenged without knowing his own strength, it would be okay to be ridiculed. After all, the opponent has the strength. If you lose, who can you blame? But you challenged yourself, and after the game, you still ridiculed me. Do you think there are no adults in the house? Who dares to bully my brother except me? My grandfather is a master who has never lost in aerial combat. It is your brother's luck to be able to fight against him. Who knew that your brother is so weak that he doesn't even count the time of the fight?" Guangzhang girl said. "Winning a group of weak chickens can't change the nature of being a weak chicken." Zahu said, although he knew that Guangzhang, the master of aerial combat, really has some strength and is not all flattery, otherwise he would not have such a reputation, but he didn't care about these things when he started to criticize. Moreover, Guangzhang, as one of the judges of this competition, came early in the morning and must be more familiar with the wind direction here. Bullying Zyossi, a novice who just came here today and is completely unfamiliar with the wind direction, what is there to be proud of? You should go to a completely new place. Young man, you are the first person who dares to say that about me. Guangzhang looked at Zahu and said, although he has retired and has become indifferent to many things, it is because of his age that he cares about nothing else but reputation. It is an honor. Zahu said. Then do you dare to fight? Guangzhang said. Okay, I'm not afraid of fighting in the air. Zahu said. The old and the young looked at each other, and invisible sparks collided fiercely. Chapter 542, First Flying Battle. Sister Kona, what happened to Brother Zahu? He seems completely different from usual. Xiaoguang asked curiously. Someone's brother control has kicked in. His brother, except for him, can't be touched by others. Kona said. Oh. Xiaoguang nodded, not quite understanding. People on both sides of the canyon were also talking about it. It's not that Zahu has such a great influence, but Guangzhang is an aerial combat master, and he has been competing here for several days, winning every battle, so his popularity is naturally high. Another person is fighting against Master Guangzhang, so he is so ignorant. Haven't you heard of Master Guangzhang's reputation? He just came, just like the person just now. He lost. How long do you think he can last? 10 minutes, or 15 minutes? More. 5 minutes. Wait, this person, I'm a little familiar. It seems like a legend on the cover of a magazine. He may not be weak. The discussion continued. Zahu's expression was subtle. How to say it? Inexplicably there is a sense of deja vu of the protagonist of a fantasy novel fighting the villain. The protagonist challenges a random villain. A group of onlookers open up their god's perspective, understand the villain's situation very well, and praise him endlessly. Then they express regret and mourning for the protagonist, and are not optimistic about him in various ways. In the end, the protagonist reverses and sighs again, writing hundreds of words in a legitimate way. When Zahu read novels before, he thought, how can a bunch of dead extras have so many dramas? But he didn't expect that one day he would encounter such a funny thing. Mr. Guangzhang, I'm wearing a wingsuit and floating over the canyon, and you are still sitting in a hot air balloon. Zahu looked at Guangzhang and said, the other party is very old, and his hands and feet are not convenient. If he wears a wingsuit, Zahu is a little worried about an accident or something. No, I'm an old man, I'm not that old yet. Guangzhang was not willing to admit defeat and flew into the air in a wingsuit. Okay, then I won't be polite. I'll do my best. Violent Salamander, you come and try. Zhu released the Violent Salamander. The opposite side of Guangzhang is not weak, but he probably doesn't have a king level 1. Even if he does, it's not high level. Using Pockets is too bullying. Violent Salamander? Giant Mantis. Guangzhang carefully looked at Zhu's Violent Salamander. His eyes were fierce and his dragon claws were sharp. His muscles were obvious. He was a very difficult character to deal with. He secretly refreshed himself and then looked at his best partner, Giant Mantis. The figure of Giant Mantis flashed and flew to the opposite side of the Violent Salamander like a red lightning. He looked at the Violent Salamander with indifference and a cold face. Zhu's eyes lit up slightly. Judging from the speed alone, the training was very good, but it still didn't break through the king level. It was a good opponent for the Violent Salamander. Violent Salamander, Dragon Claw. Zhu said. The green dragon power condensed on the huge dragon claws of the Violent Salamander, and it slapped the Giant Mantis fiercely. Giant Mantis, get out of the way. Guangzhang responded calmly. The Giant Mantis was worthy of Guangzhang's trump card. It reacted quickly and flew along the wind blowing from the side. Its speed increased rapidly and it nimbly avoided the attack of the newt. Newt, catch up. The newt flapped its blood-red wings and pounced on the Giant Mantis relentlessly and quickly closed the distance. After all, the newt could really fly, while the Giant Mantis was half flying and half gliding, so its speed was not as fast. Feeling the fierce attack coming from behind, the Giant Mantis was a little anxious, knowing that this opponent was not simple, but following Guangzhang's experience in hundreds of battles, although he was a little panicked, he still acted without any panic. He found a cliff in front and rushed over at a faster speed. The Violent Salamander was also chasing and was about to hit it. At this critical moment, the Giant Mantis followed the airflow and swiftly bypassed the cliff in front, while the Violent Salamander behind was completely unable to slow down and was about to crash into the cliff. Violent Salamander, Dragon Claw. Zhu quickly ordered. The green dragon power on the dragon claw of the Violent Salamander condensed and burst out, hitting the cliff with force. The dragon claw left deep claw marks on the cliff, and the soil and rocks collapsed. With the help of this power, it finally stopped with difficulty and was not hurt, but it also lost the best opportunity to chase the Giant Mantis. Giant Mantis, double attack. Guangzhang said. The Giant Mantis calmly dodged the attack of the newt. Its two huge red pincers emitted a strong purple light and hit the newt fiercely. The newt roared, but the Giant Mantis flew to the side with the help of an air current. Zhu's eyes changed slightly. He was indeed a famous aerial combat master in SYNOPSIS. He judged the place where the wind changed, took advantage of the change, let the newt suffer a loss, and glided with the help of the air current to easily avoid it. However, there are always disadvantages. Newt, chase again. Zhu said. The newt's blood-red wings vibrated, and it chased the Giant Mantis fiercely. The wings behind the Giant Mantis vibrated rapidly, and it used the air current to dodge the newt's attacks repeatedly, and even launched a counterattack, using alloy claws and double attacks. The newt was like a bullied punching bag, and could only take the beating. The battle situation was almost one-sided. Brother Zhu seems to be no match for Mr. Guangzhang. He won't lose this match, will he? Guang said with a little worry. Lose? Don't underestimate your brother Zhu. Although the opponent's strength is indeed very good, it is still far from enough to defeat Zhu with such strength. Zhu is just warming up now. Kona's mouth curled up slightly and said confidently. Warming up. Guang's eyes widened. This level of fierce battle is just a warm-up. Using the opponent's attack to arouse the fighting spirit of some powerful Pokémon under your command is a relatively common method in battle. If you fight in the wild, you can let your ivory pig try it, but it can't be used in the gorgeous competition. Kona said. My ivory pig, after evolving, doesn't listen to me very much. Guang said disappointedly. This is because your trainer level is suspected by Pokémon. Don't worry so much. He has also encountered such a thing. Charizard, one of his current main partners, used to spit fire at him every day. You are still lucky. At least Mamoswine will not attack you actively, but will not listen to your orders. Kona said. That's right. Xiaoguang nodded, feeling a little relieved. Young man, your strength is not proportional to your tone. Guangzhang looked at Zhou and said, your salamander is the same as your brother Scorpionet. There is still a long way to go before it becomes stronger. Really? Mr. Guangzhang, the game starts from this moment. Zhou's eyes flashed. Salamander, use Dragon Claw. Giant, dodge. Guangzhang said. Giant flew quickly, trying to keep a distance, waiting for the change of airflow. However, just as Giant flew to the side, it was hit by Salamander's Dragon Claw and smashed into a cliff, making a small pit. Your attack routine is fixed, and your evasion has also changed significantly. You can completely stop it before using the airflow. Zhou looked at Guangzhang and said word by word, it's not in vain to be beaten. Chapter 543 The Sky. I have the final say. Mantis, hurry up. Guangzhang said. Mantis quickly broke away from the rock wall, flapped its wings, and flew into the sky. Salamander, use Flame Fang. Zhou said. Salamander quickly flew up, and flames accumulated in its mouth. The scorching heat was terrifying. Mantis, destroy the death ray. Guangzhang said. Mantis, with its claws open, a terrifying orange energy light burst out, and violently hit Salamander. Salamander, dodge. Zhou said. Salamander's wings suddenly flapped, raising a gust of wind, and it quickly flew up to avoid Mantis's destruction and death ray. Salamander, chase. Zhou said. Salamander's wings vibrated, stabilized its body, and then immediately rushed towards Mantis. The giant mantis, whose body was temporarily slightly stiff due to the side effects of using the destruction death ray, followed the rising airflow and rose rapidly, trying to distance itself from the deteriorating newt. Newt, speed up, Zhou said. It was a good strategy to use the rising airflow to distance itself and pass the period of stiffness. However, the giant mantis could not fly completely, but could only glide. In terms of flying speed, it was not as fast as the newt. Even with the wind, the newt was better. The newt rushed forward quickly. Sure enough, it caught up. Giant mantis, double attack, Guangzhang said. The giant mantis reacted immediately, changed its body posture, dived down, and its two claws flashed with rich purple light. Newt, spray fire, Zhou said. A thick column of flame shot out from the newt's mouth and hit the giant mantis violently, sending it flying. Giant mantis. Guangzhang's face changed, and he was moved for the first time. This opponent was much stronger than he expected. When giant mantis heard the trainer's call, it opened its eyes with difficulty, and its wings fluttered behind it, and it dived down quickly. Not bad strength. Zhou nodded. Giant mantis was restrained by the fire system 4 times, and it could still have this speed after enduring a fire spray from the hurricane salamander, proving that the training of the trainer is indeed remarkable. Giant mantis dived down, and its pincers flashed purple light. However, when it was about to hit, an updraft suddenly hit, and the hurricane salamander quickly flew away, flew upwards, and avoided the attack of giant mantis. Sorry, I just took a quick look at the wind direction around me, and made some small judgments. Although I can't see the wind direction changes, I can still see some obvious strong winds. This pizza, I won. Zhou said. It's not the last moment yet, and the outcome is still unknown. Guangzhang said. No, I will definitely win this match. Haven't you discovered your weakness yet? Zhou said. Weakness? Guangzhang's eyes changed slightly, looking at Zhou in disbelief. Yes, you like to use the wind to fight. Zhou said. Of course, the key to aerial combat is to look at the wind. The change of wind can determine the outcome of a match. Guangzhang said. That makes sense, but you like the wind very much, and gliding pays more attention to the wind than flying, and can also better use the wind. In some aspects, flying is not as good as using the wind. But because of this, you pay too much attention to the change of this wind, so the main force you choose can't fly, can only glide, and can't fly freely. Zhou said. Even so, my giant claw mantis is the strongest. Guangzhang said. Then let me show you the real art of flying. The violent salamander dominates the sky, makes the earth crawl at your feet, and also lets the giant claw mantis know who has the final say in the sky. Zhou said. The newt roared, the sound waves rolled, stirred the wind, and then attacked the giant claws at a fierce speed. The giant claws moved quickly, trying to dodge, but this time it was pounced by the newt before it found the change point of the wind direction, and then it bit down with a move of fire fangs. The giant claws were hit by the flames and immediately couldn't fight. The newt's body shook and threw the giant claws aside. The giant claws showed a pair of big circular eyes. Roar, the newt roared, announcing the joy of the winner. As expected, it's still Brother Zahu, Sister Kona. Brother Zahu, have you ever lost? Zyarksha said. Without using Dragonite, he is a top level trainer of the champion class. There are a few people who can compete with him, or even beat him. I'm not weaker than him. But with Dragonite and Lugia, fighting alone, there is no one in the world who can match him. Kona said. Zyarksha looked at Zyalzi with a little pity. It was really difficult to target Brother Zahu. The people in Kona were not surprised by Zahu's victory, but the audience around them did not expect it at all. Kozo, the master of aerial combat, claimed that he had never lost in his life, but in his later years, he actually lost here. This challenger is very strong. If you don't have the strength, you don't dare to challenge. Who has the final say in the sky? So cool. That's it. Not necessarily. I think Kozo's strength is not that good. He is old and his strength has declined. I suspect his theory is problematic. The wind direction is not that important. The master of aerial combat, is he just a vain name? The discussion became more and more heated, and finally it even reached the point of suspecting and slandering Kozo. Zahu frowned slightly when he heard these remarks. He looked at Guangzhang and said with a serious face, Mr. Guangzhang, I don't think I have given you a formal self-introduction yet. I, Zahu, am now 18 years old. I became a doctor at the age of 12, breaking the record of the youngest age of the league's doctor. At the age of 15, I became the champion of the Kanto Quartz Conference for my first trip. At the age of 17, I became the champion of the Hone League, breaking the record of the youngest age of the league's champion. I once defeated the legendary Hone Pokémon Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre, and the legendary Pokémon Dialga. As Zahu introduced himself, the onlookers burst into heated discussions again. Damn, this is pretending to be a pig, and eating the tiger, a top god. Why didn't you take a picture just now? The Hone champion, fighting against the Master Guangzhang in the air in Sinop. Such a wonderful scene, but you didn't take a picture. No wonder Master Guangzhang lost. It turns out that his opponent is such a great god. In this way, Master Guangzhang, it's not unfair for you to lose. Zahu listened to the comments that completely changed the direction of the wind and shook his head slightly. Bitch. When Zahu first heard the comments from people around him, he realized that something was wrong. He and Guangzhang were just fighting for their feelings. There was no hatred between the two sides, and Zahu had no intention of ruining Guangzhang's reputation. When an unknown newcomer beats a long-established person, there will always be some inexplicable people who look for opportunities to say sour words. However, if people find out that this unknown newcomer is actually a hidden big shot, everyone will be shocked by the strength of this big shot and ignore the strength of this famous person. Just like in Xianlong Babu, Mirangfu was defeated by the unknown Duanyu in Shaoxi Mountain, and his reputation plummeted. But if it was replaced by the abbot of Shaolin, everyone would think it was natural, and it was normal for anyone to win or lose. So Zahu realized that something was wrong, and revealed his identity. Then, the atmosphere really changed. Guangzhang's expression changed slightly. On the one hand, he didn't expect Zahu to have such an identity. On the other hand, he thought about the meaning of Zahu's words. He didn't expect Zahu to speak for him. Thanks to Mark for the reward, I will add another chapter. Chapter 544, Sky Competition begins. What a great aerial battle. Zahu stretched his body a little. It was much more interesting to fight against an elite trainer like Koz than against an ordinary rookie. Brother Zahu's salamander is really powerful, Shinji said. Not bad, your Charizard won't be bad either. Zahu smiled indifferently and looked at Zyalzi and said, also, Zyalzi, you should make a good training plan for Scorpio. Although what Mr. Koz and his granddaughter said was unpleasant to hear, the general idea was right. I will. Zyalzi said embarrassedly. Recall what Koz said. It's an exaggeration to say that he is the best in aerial battles. but if it comes to gliding Pokémon battles, he is the best, and there is really no big problem. If I only use gliding Pokémon to fight, I may not win him, Zahu said. Although he won against Koz, Zahu did not deny Koz's expertise in judging wind direction. Changes in the wind. Zyozzy fell into deep thought and began to think about the use of Koz in the battle. Remember Kozo's response just now. Although Scorpio King has a flying attribute compared to Mantis, Scorpio King can only glide, Zahu said. Not only that, Zyozzy will also capture a fighting bird in the Kalos region in the future, which can only glide and cannot fly. Zyozzy nodded and encouraged himself secretly, striving towards the goal of becoming a strong man. Time passed slowly, and more trainers came to Strongwind Canyon. In the past few days, almost every day, you can see new trainers coming here to train, experience the charm of the new professional trainer of Sky Trainer, and enjoy the thrill of flying in the sky. And the day of the competition has finally arrived. Kozo, Yushang, and Naki, 3 masters of aerial combat, floated over the canyon in wingsuits, speaking exciting speeches, trying to mobilize the passion of the participants. Needless to say, Miss Yuka, the host of SYNOPSIS, came early in the morning to broadcast live, but her head was often hit by the microphone for no reason, and she lost her temper several times. Zahu didn't squeeze in with the crowd, but lay in the VIP area specially prepared for him by the organizer. He gladly accepted the special treatment specially prepared by the organizer for him alone. After all, he deserved it. The former champion of Hana and the undefeated master of aerial combat, Koz, in SYNOPSIS, such a thing is very gimmicky. The organizer is not stupid. How could they not promote such a gimmicky thing on the eve of the game? When the battle between Zahu and Koz just ended, the news spread to all parts of SYNOPSIS like wings. Various headlines were flying all over the sky, such as the 2 masters shocking battle. The undefeated master Koz will eventually lose. The Hone champion dominates the sky. When Zahu found out the next day, the news had already spread completely, and he couldn't do anything about it. After all, spreading rumors is illegal, but spreading true news is not illegal. It is the right to freedom of the press. Moreover, the organizers were very considerate, providing Zahu with the highest level of VIP treatment, taking care of food, clothing, housing and transportation. Zahu just pretended that nothing had happened. After all, for him, there was really no loss. Anyway, it was not him who lost. I just don't know how Kozan felt. The advertising effect was quite good. Trainers who had not originally planned to participate in the aerial battle competition all came. The number of participants increased by more than double. The happy organizers were so happy that they didn't know what to do. They kept raising the treatment for Zahu, which made the eyes of the other contestants red. After a lot of long-winded nonsense, the competition finally began. Zahu didn't know whether he was lucky or manipulated, but he drew number 1 and was the first to fight. He stood up leisurely and flew above the canyon. The opponent who drew number 2 saw that it was Zahu. His face turned pale, and he cursed inwardly for his bad luck. The competition has not started in the past few days, but Zahu has not been idle. He fights with some trainers from time to time. In name, he is giving some advice, but secretly, Zahu is bored and wants to find some children to play with. Unfortunately, this opponent is the one who has been taught by Zahu. Hello, Mr. Zahu. The opponent is a child of only 11 years old, younger than Zyozzy. Seeing Zahu, he greeted him nervously and respectfully. Hello, I'm fine too. Zahu smiled slightly. Don't be nervous, relax, just do your best. The most important thing is to participate. Friendship first, competition second. Anyway, you can't win, just be happy, don't care about winning or losing. I will try my best. Please give me some advice, Mr. Zahu. The opponent took a deep breath and released the armored bird. Not bad, don't worry, I won't use the violent salamander, I will use Togekiss. Steel type is good against fairy, you have the advantage. Zahu smiled and released Togekiss. Seeing this, the opponent smiled with relief. The reason why he lost before was because the salamander could spray fire, which was a restraint. Now the steel type restrains the fairy, which is in my favor. Maybe I can win. The little player was full of confidence. 1 minute later, Pocket spread its wings and soared in the sky, dancing gracefully, with light flashing on its body, showing its charming demeanor, while the armored bird fell to the ground powerlessly, revealing a pair of big circular eyes. The winner was revealed. The little player on the opposite side looked at Zahu with a face full of grievance. "You lied to me. What about the agreed advantage? Why can the fairy wine defeat my armored bird? Isn't it said that the attribute is favorable and the steel type resists the fairy type? Friendship first, competition second, work hard, the future star of hope." Zahu smiled awkwardly and couldn't control his hands a little bit. Pockets hit it with all his strength, and then it was like this. It shouldn't be autistic because of being beaten. Zaozi has been hit so many times. Well, just treat it as nothing. Zahu left calmly and went to watch other people's games. The canyon is so big that dozens of battles can be held at the same time without interfering with each other. After the preliminaries, the official competition will start after 2-on-2, and then 1-on-1 battles will begin, so that the audience can watch carefully. Chatting and walking around, the first person I saw was Zaozi. This guy was also angry. He ignored the newly evolved Mukahawk and the main pet Charizard, and chose to fight with the Scorpion King who could not fly completely. Fortunately, this guy's really talented in sky battles. After several nights of assault, he has already analyzed and judged the wind direction in a proper way. After spending some time, he won. On the other side, Shinji and Alan were faster. Although neither of them used Charizard, the strength of the Proud Pheasant and Crowhead was far superior to ordinary Pokémon. With the command of the two, they won easily. Then they will rearrange in the afternoon and compete. The preliminaries were solved in one day. Those who won 3 games in a row will enter the 2-on-2 official competition. They had to win 3 games each to advance to the finals. Coincidentally, Zahu's first opponent in the official competition was Ailan. The two looked at each other, and sparks flew. Chapter 545. Battle against Ailan. Wearing a wingsuit, floating over the canyon, Zahu released the violent salamander, which flew happily over the canyon. It was flying in the sky every day during this period, which made it very happy. Ailan released a Proud Pheasant. "Proud Pheasant? Have you been to Unova?" Zahu laughed. The Proud Pheasant is the final evolution of the Unova family bird, the dove. It's just that a good pigeon evolved to the end and turned into a pheasant. This is what happens to Pokémon. For example, Marilla is a water rat. After evolution, she turned into a water rabbit. God probably doesn't know how genes change. "No, I captured it in Kalos," Ailan said. "That's right. Pokémon from various regions can almost be found in your Kalos. This is much better than other regions," Zahu said. "If it weren't for this, the Kalos region would not study the super evolution of all Pokémon. Then I'll attack first," Ailan said, knowing that ZHIHUI would usually give them the chance to attack first. "It doesn't matter, do as you like. Let me see the strength of the Proud Pheasant. Although I've known about the Proud Pheasant for a long time, this is the first Proud Pheasant I've seen," ZHIHUI said. Ailan thought for a while, and said to the Proud Pheasant, "Proud Pheasant, try to attack with speed." ZHIHUI wanted to see the level of the Proud Pheasant, and he also wanted to see how his Proud Pheasant and the Violent Salamander were doing. The Proud Pheasant, as its name suggests, was very proud. The crown on its head swung and turned into a stream of light, actively attacking the Violent Salamander, which was several times larger than it. Although it was called a chicken, its flying speed was extraordinary, and its agility was slightly higher than that of the Violent Salamander. Ailan did not issue any specific attack commands, and ZHIHUI did not give any orders either. They just watched the Violent Salamander and the Proud Pheasant fight each other, turning into 2 streams of light, and fighting fiercely in the air. The Violent Salamander swooped down like an eagle, domineering and fierce, as if it were the king of the sky. Although the Proud Pheasant was not as strong as the Violent Salamander, it did not show any weakness at all. It proudly raised the crown on its head to threaten, and it was agile. After the strong attack failed, it would often dodge cleverly and win with speed. The two Pokémon fought back and forth, and in the blink of an eye, they had fought several times in the strong wind canyon, which made people unable to take their eyes off. Proud Pheasant, use steel wings. In the end, Ailan was a little anxious, and gave the attack command first. The proud pheasant, with its wings shining with a bright white metallic luster, slashed at the violent salamander fiercely. Although the proud pheasant did not suffer a big loss in the several attacks just now, it was obviously at a disadvantage. If AI Land did not command it, it would lose. The violent salamander was attacked by the proud pheasant and fell down. It fluttered its wings to keep flying. Violent salamander, spray fire, Zahu said. The violent salamander flew up and spewed out a mouthful of blazing flames, and the temperature rose sharply. Proud pheasant, get out of the way, AI Land said. The proud pheasant moved quickly, riding the wind, and calmly dodged the spray of fire from the violent salamander. Divine bird strike, AI Land shouted immediately. A faint blue light appeared on the surface of the proud pheasant's body, and it rushed towards the violent salamander with great power and destruction. Violent salamander, ultimate impact, Zahu said calmly. The whole body of the violent salamander was shining, and it was moving at a very fast speed. With a strong wind pressure, it went straight to the proud pheasant. The two collided violently, like two large trucks. However, before they could hold each other for long, the violent salamander broke the proud pheasant's divine bird slam with overwhelming force, and slammed the proud pheasant hard against the cliff on one side. The proud pheasant was completely embedded in the cliff, and the entire mountain wall was shattered. The proud pheasant fell downward. Theoretically, the divine bad slam, like the sun and fire, needs to accumulate power for a round before it can burst out a fierce attack in the second round. However, unlike the sun and fire, which must accumulate sunlight and attack in the second round, the divine bad slam can burst out without accumulating to the strongest. Therefore, the key to the battle is to interrupt the proud pheasant's divine bird slam before the power of the divine bad slam is increased to the strongest. Coupled with the powerful strength of the violent salamander, it is reasonable for the proud pheasant to fail. Haughty pheasant, hold on. After using the ultimate impact, your body will become stiff. Use the divine bird slam once more, AI Land said. The proud pheasant opened its eyes forcibly, flapped its wings with all its might, and once again burst out with a powerful flying force, heading straight for the violent salamander. At this moment, the violent salamander had already taken off with the wind. An updraft lifted the violent salamander easily, and pulled a long distance away from the proud pheasant. Not good, proud pheasant. Stop quickly. AI Land suddenly realized that something was wrong. Although the proud pheasant was puzzled, it still reacted and stopped attacking. Very good reaction. Smarter than Zylzy. If it were Zylzy, he would definitely rush up directly and then be beaten. But at this point, the result is the same, whether you rush or not. Zahu smiled slightly. Violent salamander, Thunderfang. The violent salamander flapped its wings and swooped down quickly, with lightning flashing in its mouth. The proud pheasant had long wings and wanted to escape, but in its current situation, how could it escape? The violent salamander swooped down and bit the proud pheasant. The strong electric current swept through the proud pheasant's body. The proud pheasant suddenly turned black and completely lost its combat ability, floating on the ground to one side. Thank you for your hard work, proud pheasant. AI Land took back the proud pheasant, and then took out a treasure ball and said, Charizard, it all depends on you. With a flash of red light, Charizard flew over the canyon. As AI Land's first and best partner, it goes without saying that it has a tacit understanding with AI Land. Charizard, it's a pity that the rules of aerial battles limit Pokémon to flying types, otherwise it would be much more interesting if the two of us made Charizard and Salamander Mega Evolve. Zahu said. If Brother Zahu doesn't mind, we can do it now. A Sky Hero and Sharp Beak can't compare to a good fight with Brother Zahu. AI Land said. Then let's abide by the rules. As for the battle between Mega Charizard and Mega Salamander, let's leave it until the Lily of the Valley conference. Zahu said. Okay, in that case, Charizard, Dragon Claw. AI Land ordered brazenly. A huge green dragon claw imprint appeared on Charizard's claws, and it attacked Salamander domineeringly. Salamander, Dragon Claw. Zahu issued the same order. Salamander's dragon claws surged with power. Its wings spread, facing the wind, and pounced on Charizard. Charizard didn't care at all. Its claws collided violently with the claws of the salamander, and powerful waves of air spread in all directions. Feeling each other's power, Charizard and Salamander's expressions brightened, and their fighting spirit rose. They fought several times in the sky above the canyon, and their powerful power was released everywhere, even affecting the TV program crew watching and filming in a hot air balloon nearby. A group of people had no choice but to pull away and record from a distance, secretly surprised. Charizard's claws accumulated power. Although it was not super evolved and its attributes had not changed to dragon attributes, the power of its claws was much less than usual, but it was still powerful, even stronger than Salamander. It was able to find the enemy's weakness first in the fierce confrontation, and with a fierce attack, its claws penetrated from bottom to top, hitting Salamander's head and knocking Salamander into the sky. Salamander roared, and the dragon type tricks hurt him a lot. Charizard had no intention of letting the storm salamander go, and chased after it relentlessly, with the power of its claws increasing continuously. "Turn around and attack," Zahu shouted coldly. The storm salamander was hit into the sky, and its body was already leaning back. Upon hearing Zahu's order, it took advantage of the situation, turned around, and dived at high speed to avoid the claws of the Charizard, and came behind the Charizard. Charizard, explosive flame. Ailan made a prompt decision. It was not realistic to dodge at this distance, and she was not as good as Zahu in judging the wind direction, so she attacked head-on. The strongest attack was the best defense. A raging flame immediately burst out of the Charizard, like a cloud of fire, and the flame spread directly to both sides of the canyon. Thunderfang. Zahu ignored the raging flames and said directly. Like Zahu, the newt rushed straight towards the flames, enduring the blazing flames, and jumping behind Charizard. A strong lightning flashed in its mouth, and two sharp teeth bit Charizard. The strong current washed over Charizard, causing it to scream in pain. After enduring the pain, it reluctantly pushed the newt away. The two flying dragons confronted each other with fierce eyes, but they didn't dare to act rashly without the trainer's order. In the battle just now, both sides won and lost, and no one gained much advantage. Chapter 546, Die Together. Salam, spray fire. Salam opened its mouth and roared, and a large orange-red flame spurted out of its mouth. Charizard, spray fire. Ailan issued the same command. After all, Charizard is a fire-type Pokémon. If he retreated in the face of spraying fire, Charizard would look down on him as a trainer. Charizard immediately sprayed a large piece of flame, which collided violently with the flame of Salam. After the two flames were deadlocked in the air for a while, Salam suddenly exerted force and actually overwhelmed the flame of Charizard. The flame sprayed and knocked Charizard away. Charizard is a fire-type Pokémon, but the power of its spraying fire is not as strong as that of Salam. It is worthy of being brother Zahu's Salam. Zyuksha, who was watching, exclaimed. The only flying type Pokémon she had was Gyarados. This was not a game, so Gyarados naturally could not fight in the air. No, this is because of the special ability of the storm salamanders. Although they don't have the fire attribute, they are born with the unique skills of the flame type, and they use them very well. If it weren't for the test that confirmed that Baby Dragon didn't have the fire attribute, the research community would think that Baby Dragon used the fire attribute to exchange for the flying attribute. Kona said. She didn't participate in the competition, but just acted as a commentator for Zyuksha and her friends. Traveling with Zahu, this kind of thing happened frequently, and she was used to it. But it's a bit too much to be stronger than Charizard. Zyuksha said. That's because of Ailan's training. His training focuses on the slapping of dragon claws and the close combat of Charizard. Although he didn't give up the training of flames, the main training direction of flame training is also a large-scale group attack like explosive flames, rather than a more focused attack like jet flames. Kona said. No, just now Charizard, which is not a dragon type, used the dragon type special move Dragon Claw, which is stronger than the dragon type Salamander. Now Salamander, which is not a fire type, uses the fire type special move Flame Spray, which is stronger than the fire type Charizard. It's very interesting. Zyuksha said. It's quite interesting. Two guys who trained the wrong Pokémon. Kona smiled. But, it's still in favor of Brother Zahu. After all, Brother Zahu is invincible. Zyuksha said. It's hard to say. In terms of Pokémon strength, Island's Charizard is stronger than Zahu's Salamander. After all, Charizard is the strongest Pokémon in Island's hands. He has been through hundreds of battles with Alan and has defeated several king level Pokémon. Although Zahu's salamander has enough training in the team, it is still a lot behind. However, Zahu's trainer level is higher than Alan, and Alan can't use his best super evolution. He and Charizard are not in good condition, so the outcome is unknown. Kona said. Dragon Claw. Alan said. Charizard came out from the rock wall and used its claws to attack the salamander. Dragon Claw. Get close. ZHIHUI said. Salamander rushed forward without showing any weakness and took advantage of the convenience of air combat to bite Charizard with its head, and lightning flashed. The two Pokémon fought fiercely over the canyon without reservation and even bit each other like wild beasts. Alan frowned. The current battle was not bad for him. Charizard and Salamander not only did not lose the upper hand in the battle, but also had an advantage, but this advantage was not big, and Charizard was already his strongest trump card, while Salamander was only the second batch or even the third batch of Pokémon in ZHIHUI's hands. This result obviously could not satisfy Alan. The fire-type special move is not very effective against dragon Pokémon, and it can only rely on Dragon Claws. However, fighting in the sky is not like fighting on the ground, where the space is limited. Here, you can attack from all directions. Dragon Claw attacks, and soon the opponent's Thunderfang attacks again. Why is the power of a dragon and flying Pokémon's electric special move so strong? Alan stared at the battle, and many ideas popped up in his mind, but there was no good method for the time being. After a fierce battle between the violent Salamander and Charizard, the two Pokémon separated at the same time. The violent Salamander panted and glanced at Zahu. The meaning was simple. I want to super evolve. Now, I can't beat him. Don't bully others. They haven't super evolved. Let's not super evolve either. Win by real ability. Are you afraid? Zahu said. The violent Salamander roared, indicating that he was no longer afraid. Well, fly in the wind and enjoy this stage. Zahu said. The newt flapped its wings and flew in the sky. Charizard, steel wings. Alan said. The wings of Charizard shone with a bright white metallic luster, like two sharp blades, breaking through the wind. Newt, retreat. ZHIHUI said. The newt took advantage of the wind and no longer attacked Charizard at close range. Instead, it kept its distance and used the wind to fight, leaving Charizard empty-handed. Turnaround attack. ZHIHUI said. The newt slowed down slightly and prepared to perform a turnaround attack. Charizard, steel wings, chase quickly. Alan said. The wings of Charizard shone with a bright white metallic luster, like two wings made of steel, and directly hit the newt, interrupting the newt's turnaround attack. Brother Zahu, do you think I will let you keep using the method of spinning attack and Thunderfang to attack from behind Charizard? Alan looked at Zahu and said. The spinning attack of the Storm Salamander left obvious movement traces. As long as he caught this key point, he could interrupt the spinning attack. Once the spinning attack was interrupted, the Storm Salamander would not be able to get behind the Charizard, and it would be even more difficult for Thunderfang to hit it. After all, the attack range of the Dragon Claw was much greater than that of Thunderfang. Control your body, keep your balance, fly hard, and keep your distance. Zahu didn't have time to pay attention to Alan, but gave orders to the Storm Salamander. The Storm Salamander was hit by a steel wing, and its balance was broken. Its body fell down. It took a long time to control its balance, avoid the claw of the Charizard, and fly away. Chase. Alan said without thinking. The Charizard chased after it, and the Storm Salamander was still fleeing. It flew to a stone forest in the canyon, and was affected by a headwind, and its speed slowed down slightly. Charizard, Dragon Claw. Alan said. Charizard's claws slapped and went towards the head of the salamander. However, at this moment, a gust of air came, and the salamander moved with the wind and left naturally, but Charizard did not react, and slapped a stone pillar with one claw, and the broken stones fell. Spin attack plus Thunderfang. Zahu's eyes flashed. It would be better if he didn't enter the stone forest. If he entered, the outcome of this game would be almost determined. The salamander turned and flew, with lightning flashing in its mouth, and bit Charizard. The electric current hit Charizard's body violently, and the body turned suddenly, and then it got out of the control of the salamander again. Charizard, get out of here quickly, Ailan said anxiously, thinking about interrupting the offensive of the spin attack, forgetting that the terrain of this stone forest is complicated, the airflow is rushing, and the battle is difficult. The test of the trainer level is greater, and Zahu's trainer level is higher than his. Here you are, do you still want to leave? Salamander, use the Dragon Claw, Zahu said. Salamander attacked fiercely, stopping Charizard, and then used the changes in the wind to continuously attack and harass Charizard. Although the damage caused once was not great, it would be different if it was repeated many times. Ailan, come on. Manon, the only little fan of Ailan at the scene, shouted anxiously. Ailan's expression was solemn. Now the rhythm of the battle was completely controlled by Zahu. If he didn't find an opportunity to break the situation, he would definitely lose. Salamander gathered the dragon power of both claws and pounced on Charizard. He liked this kind of oppression now. Charizard, use the Dragon Claw, Ailan said. It was impossible to leave here without paying a price. In this case, let's fight. Charizard has not evolved and is not a dragon type, so the Dragon Claw does not cause much damage to it. On the contrary, Salamander is a pure dragon type and it bears the dragon type attack and suffers great damage. Charizard used the Dragon Claw quickly and took the lead in hitting Salamander. Violent Salamander, hold on, hold Charizard, and use the ultimate impact, Zahu said. The Dragon Claw hit the violent Salamander, and Ailan was just happy when he saw the violent Salamander hug Charizard tightly, and his face suddenly changed. Then the storm on his body burst out, and he rushed straight forward. Pushing all the way, he broke several stone pillars in a row. Charizard suffered a heavy blow and was finally thrown to the ground by the violent Salamander, revealing a pair of background eyes, and completely lost its combat effectiveness. The violent Salamander could not bear it and fell down heavily, lying down completely, and lost its combat ability. In terms of actual combat power, it is still much worse than Ailan's Charizard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547. Do you want to get married together? After the first battle, Zahu and Ailan brought their respective Pokémon to Miss Joy for treatment. It was at this time that Zahu felt the necessity of the organizer asking Miss Joy to come in advance. Otherwise, the Pokémon treatment would have been delayed for who knows how long. Regarding the Pokémon treatment, Miss Joy was in charge, and Zahu and Ailan didn't have to worry about it. They sat aside and chatted. How is your life recently? Zahu said. Fortunately, there are many special Pokémon and natural ecology in SYNOPSIS which are all very valuable for research. I teleported back, and the doctor liked it very much. Ailan said. No, I'm not asking that. What I'm asking is, how are you and Manon doing? Zahu said. Huh. Ailan's expression froze slightly. What are you talking about? Is this a question that a qualified elder should ask? Hug what? Chatting. Don't talk about this. What to talk about? Just talk about Pokémon competitions. How boring. Life is great. We can't just think about competitions. We need to enrich our lives. Pokémon fighting is part of our lives. It can be the most important part, but it can't be all, Zahu said. But Manon and Ailan said with a tangled face. Don't tell me that this is such a cliched and bloody answer to a sister, Zahu said. No, I don't have a sister, and I don't think of Manon as a sister. Ailan's answer was affirmative. Alas, what's wrong with you kids? You don't look good, but there are some inexplicable shining points on you that are discovered by girls and then pursued by girls. Zyos, he is like this, and you are also like this, but your emotional response is still slow. Zahu looked like he was disappointed with his son. When he talked about this, he felt a little sad. Until now, no girl has taken the initiative to pursue him, and there will be no chance in the future. If there is, it will be a headache. It's better not to have it. Ailan looked puzzled. Why did she feel that the person sitting next to her was not a famous champion doctor or a successful person, but a distant relative? You are not as good as Xiaomao. When he goes out, there are beautiful women with him. The level of Pokémon trainers is about the same, but when it comes to picking up girls, he is 10 of you. Zahu said. Brother Zahu, when are you going to marry the king of Kona? Alan wisely changed the subject, feeling that if he continued to talk, he would fall into an abyss and be unable to extricate himself. Probably this year. I'll ask you to come then, don't be too busy. Zahu said. I will definitely be free. Alan affirmed, unless he really couldn't leave, otherwise he would go to Zahu's wedding no matter what. It's agreed that, if you don't come then, I will go to Dr. Britanno to settle the score. Zahu said. When the time comes, I will go with Manon. Alan said. That's the best, bring your family over, and if it's appropriate, do it with me, I don't mind. Zahu said. Brother Zahu, if you get married, will you travel in the future? Alan wisely changed the subject, feeling that if he continued to talk about that topic, he would never stop talking. Yes, let's do a Grand Slam first, collect all the championship trophies in various regions, and then when the children grow up, they will have urinals. Zahu said. Urinal pot? Alan's body was shocked. You use the championship trophy as a urinal. You are so outstanding. Does your mother know? Oh no, it should be the league that knows. Have you ever considered the feelings of those players who dream of the championship trophy, but can't get it? As for the championship trophy, it doesn't matter if there are too many of them. Scarcity makes things valuable. If there are too many of them, they are worthless. Besides, the proof of strength cannot be obtained by just the championship trophy. Compared with the king and regional champions, the gold content of the conference championship trophy can be low. Zahu said indifferently. As for the championship, he was very excited when he got the first one, but later, it was just like that. He travels now, just to see the scenery of different places and touch the beasts. Challenging gyms is just because there are gyms in the most prosperous and special places in the region, and since you are there, why not challenge them? After challenging 6 or 7 gyms, the badges will be almost the same. Of course, it would be best to have them all. Alan opened his mouth, but still said nothing. How should he put it? Although he did not look down on the championship trophy as much as Zahu, if Zahu had not been going to participate in the Sinnoh conference, he would not bother to participate in the Sinnoh conference to prove his strength. In the animation, it was because of the passion with Xiaozi that he wanted to participate in the Kalos conference. Otherwise, he would not bother to participate. By the way, what do you want to do in the future? After Xiaomao finishes the Sinnoh League, he probably won't challenge the league again, but plans to embark on the path of a researcher. He will probably inherit the position of my teacher, Professor Oak. As for Shinji, he is preparing to hone himself and then challenge the throne of the king. Finally, Xiaozi will travel all over the world. Before he becomes the strongest Pokémon master, no one knows when he will stop. Which path will you choose? Zahu said. I don't know. I wanted to become the strongest Pokémon master and reach the pinnacle of Mega Evolution with Charizard. Later, when I met Brother Zahu, I had another goal, to defeat Brother Zahu. But it's impossible to defeat Brother Zahu in a short time. It also depends on chance, to do it in a long time. So I haven't figured out what to do in the future. Alan said. There's no rush. You always have time. And to be honest, although the champion is fixed in one area, it's quite free, which doesn't affect your becoming stronger. Speaking of which, the champions of your Kalos area are also quite special. The champion Kiruna is a famous movie star, the Water King Shami is a restaurant owner, and the Fire King Pakara, whose punishment has not been completed, is also a TV anchor. Zahu said. Alan laughed awkwardly. Okay, don't rush to leave. Watch me beat a group of people in a fancy way next. Zahu said. Of course, I also want to watch the game between Brother Zahu and Xiaozi. Alan said. Why are you so concerned about Xiaozi? Zahu said. Besides Brother Zahu, he is the second person who can make me devote myself to the battle. Even if someone else is stronger than me, like the Kona King, I can't get excited. Alan said. Because Xiaozi is a very special person. Zahu said. Alan nodded. In his heart, the Zahu brothers are very special. One is the goal he wants to surpass the most, and the other is the most recognized rival among his peers. Time passed quickly. After Zahu won the match, Xiaozi and Shinji won as expected. After that, they competed for another day. When it came to the semi-finals, it was very interesting again. Zahu played against Shinji. Chapter 548, Shinji's Miscalculation. In the morning, we saw the wonderful battle between Zyozzy and Fujikawa. Zyozzy's Mukau left a deep impression on the audience. In the afternoon, our champion, Mr. Zahu, and Shinji will bring us a wonderful game. What kind of exciting game will these two bring us? The host of the game explained enthusiastically to the camera. The 7 groups of Kajiro, Meowth, Jigglypuff, Monini, Windbell, Shawwing, and Dream debuted, sitting on the edge of a cliff with popcorn and watching the show happily. Kajiro, how long do you think Shinji can fight the boss? Meowth said. A game is 10 minutes, it should be 20 minutes. Kajiro said. So long? I don't think it's 15 minutes, Meowth was surprised. Shinji's Charizard is also very strong, and Shinji has done a good job of data research beforehand. He is very confident in his routines. Kajiro said. Really? Meowth looked curious. Zahu's ears moved slightly, listening to the conversation between Kajiro and his group. Then he looked at Shinji and said, Shinji, did you make a special plan to attack me? Yeah, a little plan. Shinji said. Then let's start. Throw the ball at the same time. Zahu smiled indifferently and released Pokémon at the same time as Shinji. Shinji released Crowhead and Zahu released Togekiss. Shinji's expression was slightly dark, and he said, Brother Zahu, when you fight against us, don't you never adjust the team according to our strength? Yes, Zahu said. Then why is Togekiss the first this time? Aren't you used to letting the violent salamander take the lead? Shinji said. He sent Crowhead to take the lead because he had a tactic to restrain the violent salamander, but that tactic was not very effective against Togekiss, and more importantly, the fairy attribute of Togekiss restrained the evil type. Because in the past few days, it was the violent salamander that killed alone, and Pokémon was dissatisfied, so I let him come. Tomorrow, he will go first. What's wrong with your tactics? Zahu said. Fortunately, it is still effective. Shinji quickly stabilized and said, okay, then let me see the speed of your Crowhead. Pokémon, take Crowhead to fly. Zahu said. Pokémon gently vibrated his wings, and his body turned into a white shadow, attacking Crowhead at an incredible speed. Crowhead was not to be outdone and competed with Pokémon in speed. However, at the beginning of the game, Crowhead was completely suppressed by Pokémon. Before he could fly much, Togekiss gave him a chance and slapped his wings on Crowhead, knocking him down. Crowhead was forced to balance and landed like a kite with a broken string. The Pokémon under Zahu can be fast and definitely not slow. As one of the veterans under Zahu, Togekiss' speed is even faster. The speed of Crowhead is not as fast as that of Togekiss. If it is replaced by Kajiro's Pidgeot, it may be possible. Although its strength is not as good, its innate genes are there. If it super evolves, it can surpass it. Wave missile, Zahu said. Togekiss's wings vibrated, and a light blue wave missile condensed and hit Crowhead fiercely. Crowhead evil wave, Shinji said. A purple-black energy missile ball burst out of Crowhead's mouth and hit the wave missile head on, but the two collided, and the wave missile directly crushed the evil wave. Although its appearance was smaller, it still fell straight down and hit Crowhead. Several feathers of Crowhead fell off, and its body fell on the stone wall on the side. Crowhead, get up quickly, don't stay where you are, and get attacked again, Shinji said. Crowhead, who was smashed on the stone wall on the side, heard Shinji's order, and struggled to fly up again. Zahu raised his eyebrows slightly. If most trainers are normal trainers, Zyozzy is the legendary kind mother trainer, while Shinji is a strict father trainer. He never comforts, and only gives simple and direct orders. Frozen wind, Shinji said. Crowhead flapped his wings, and a biting cold wind blew out, heading straight for Togekiss. This is an ice-type trick that Shinji specially trained for violent salamander, with 4 times restraint. I didn't expect Zahu to play by the rules. Fairy storm, Zahu said. Shinji's expression was slightly stunned. Isn't the fairy type trick the fairy wind? Where did the fairy storm come from? A new trick developed by Brother Zahu? Out of curiosity, Togekiss' wings flapped suddenly, and a strong wind mixed with dots of colorful phosphorescence burst out, whistling out, directly overwhelmed Crowhead's frozen wind, hitting Crowhead, and Crowhead flew backwards, revealing a painful expression. However, before the balance of the body was restored, strong winds came from all around, and they all carried the power of the fairy system. Under the attack, the Crowhead lost the ability to fight. Shinji took back the Crowhead in a daze. He finally understood why the fairy wind was called the fairy storm. Because the power of the fairy wind used by Pokémon was originally greater than normal. The violent storm of ordinary Pokémon was not as good as its fairy wind, and the airflow here was strong. Under the combination, this fairy wind was storm level. What about the agreed 20 minutes? Meow Meow looked at Kajiro. I don't have enough time to eat a bucket of popcorn. The boss doesn't play by the rules. But Shinji, you should be able to hold on for 20 minutes. Kajiro said. Charizard, come out. Shinji released his main force. A red light flashed, and a Charizard appeared on the field. It's about 1.8 meters tall, bigger than a normal Charizard, and the muscles of its claws are obvious. It should also emphasize the training of the Dragon Claw trick. You should also let it evolve into Charizard X. Zahu said. Yes. Shinji said. So, it's another one that can't super evolve. You're going to bully me again. Zahu said with a smile. Huh. Listening to Zahu's words, Island's Charizard exhaled a large string of white air from its nose and looked at Zahu with a haughty look, obviously expressing deep dissatisfaction with Zahu. Oh, you're still not convinced, but it's a pity that I specialize in dealing with those who are not convinced, especially Charizard. Zahu looked at Alan's Charizard and showed a kind smile. Johto, the entire Charizard Valley was overturned by me, and maybe your father and grandfathers were among them, but you, a junior, dare to pretend to be with me? Brother will teach you the way of dragon life. Sensing Zahu's emotions, Togekiss' eyes flickered with a faint light, and the majestic telekinesis gushed out, directly locking onto Charizard. Charizard's body stiffened, and he couldn't vent his anger. Then, Togekiss' wings vibrated, and a vast superpower surged and threw Charizard out with force, hitting it on the stone pillars on the side, breaking two of them, and Charizard regained control of its body. Charizard, use Jet Flame. Shinji said. Charizard, who had regained control of his body, felt the pain from all over his body, and was furious, spewing out raging fire, and the temperature soared. Strong mind. Zahu said. Togekiss' mental power burst out again, and an invisible barrier appeared in front of the flames, directly turning the flames back and hitting Charizard, and Charizard was frustrated again. Strong mind. Zahu's voice sounded again like a soul calling. In a battle of the same level, the attack of the superpower system is really a bug. What's more, Togekiss is a proper king level, while Charizard, who has not evolved super evolved, is just a high level elite, at most acquire seeking. How can it be defeated? Chapter 549. It was the winter 13 years ago. Brother, Shinji is gone. At night, in the accommodation prepared by the club. On the balcony, Zahu was drinking delicious orange juice under the bright starry sky, and Zyossi ran up and said panting. Oh, he's gone. I guess he became autistic, because of my beating. Never mind. Anyway, he is the one who beats others into autism every day. It doesn't matter if he is beaten into autism occasionally. It doesn't matter. Zahu nodded slightly, not caring much. Seeing Zyossi looking out of breath, he handed the juice to Zyossi again. Zyossi took it directly, drank it all in one gulp, and took a deep breath. Okay, don't worry about Shinji, and prepare for the final with me tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to your Pokémon. Zahu said. Brother, I have been preparing for this final for a long time. I will beat you. Zyossi said passionately. Defeat me? Are you kidding? With the 3 in your hand, although Scorpio can control the wind direction, it is easy for either Togekiss or Salamander to defeat it. Nook is okay, but just okay. It is not good enough to defeat me. Finally, your Charizard is indeed a powerful Pokémon, but it cannot be used on the river below the canyon. If you can't use the earth to cast, your Charizard's strength will be reduced by half. Zahu said. I will surprise you, brother. Zyossi said confidently. Okay, let me be surprised. Anyway, you know my Pokémon. There are only 2. You have 3, and I have 2. Zahu said. Brother, you don't have to give in. I don't need to give in. I want to rely on my real ability. Zyros said. The only flying types I have left are Lugia and Dragonite. You can choose it yourself. Zahu said. Zyros opened his mouth. Although he was mysteriously confident, he was not confident about Lugia and Dragonite. However, Zyros soon made up his mind and said, it has to be fair. Dragonite and Lugia are both fine. Hey, you are so serious. Okay, I will do my best. All 3 of them will fight. In addition, the tyrant will lead the way tomorrow. It will be super evolved. Zahu said with a smile. Brother, am I your real brother? Zyros looked at Zahu with a confused face. When he fought Shinji and Alan, he didn't super evolve. Zahu sighed and looked at Zyros with a sigh. Zyros, there is something I haven't told you. I'm afraid you can't bear it. Now you are old enough, and not a child anymore. It's time to tell you. Oh, tell me. Zyros nodded blankly. It was a winter 13 years ago. It was very cold that day. There were not many people on the street. I went out to buy vegetables with my mother. When I walked to an intersection, I suddenly heard a noise in the trash can next to me. Zahu said. In the trash can. Zyros was confused. What does this have to do with the trash can? Yeah, I was curious, so I walked over and saw a child in it. He didn't even look like a month old, very small, and crying loudly. Zahu said. So pitiful. What happened next? Zyros said. After that, I asked my mom if I could take him home. Mom said no, she couldn't afford it, but I thought it was too pitiful, so I took him home and took care of him like a younger brother until now. Zahu said. Take care of him like a younger brother? Hey, brother, you're not talking about me, are you? Zyros said in surprise. Zahu nodded with a heavy face. Zyros was completely broken. Was I picked up, or was I picked up from the trash can? Looking at a broken brother, Zahu leaned back in his chair, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a hint of joy. Sure enough, teasing Zyros is the happiest thing. Yesterday, we witnessed 2 wonderful matches. Today, we finally ushered in the peak finals of the aerial battle. Our champion, Mr. Zahu, and his younger brother, Zyros, will compete for the final victory. The winner will become the first aerial brave, successfully leave his name in the hall, and get the sharp bird beak. Let's turn our attention here and see who will win this battle. The host of the competition explained enthusiastically to the camera. Kona's group of relatives and friends also came early in the morning. Zyros and Zahu floated over the canyon. Zyros looked at Zahu with resentment and said, brother, you lied to me. No, 13 years ago, you were actually in the trash can. But that was because my mother asked me to hold you. I was tired, so I threw you in the trash can first, and threw it for a while. The process was all true. Zahu said with a smile. He really didn't expect that Zyros was so easy to fool after traveling for so many years, and even called his mother to ask. As a result, Zahu was scolded early in the morning. But despite being scolded, Zahu still felt very happy. Muckhawk, come out and avenge me. Zyros angrily released his newly evolved Pidgeot. Don't be angry, you've grown up, and are not as cute as before. Zahu muttered, then took out the Pokeball, and a red light flashed, and a Pidgeot majestically appeared in the air. This Pidgeot? Zyros showed a surprised expression. Yes, your big brother Kujiro's. I only have 2, and the game is 3-on-3, so of course I have to borrow one, otherwise I will let Lugia out, and the game will be meaningless. Zahu said. Okay, then I will win. Zyros said. So confident. Zyros, brother will take you flying today. Zahu looked serious, then slightly raised the cuff of his right hand, revealing a super evolution bracelet, and shouted, Pidgeot, fly faster. The colorful light shone. Covering Pidgeot, the light shone, Pidgeot's body expanded, and directly super evolved. Mega evolution? Zyros' expression froze. Why didn't he have such a scene when he fought with Alan and Shinji, but it was like this when he fought with me? And didn't they say that mega evolution can only happen between Pokémon and trainers? There must be a sufficient bond. What's wrong with you? Isn't Pidgeot borrowed? Although Pidgeot belongs to Kajiro, I have been doing all the training since he was captured by Kajiro. Togekiss usually takes him flying, and I'm the one who treats him when he catches a cold. Kajiro is his nominal trainer and his good friend in reality, but in fact, I'm the actual trainer, or rather, the substitute trainer, Zahu explained. Oh. Zyozzy nodded thoughtfully. Outside the field, a group of people from Kona looked at Kajiro in unison. Your Pokémon has a deep bond with others, and Mega evolved together. Kajiro silently shrank his neck, and lowered his head. What are you all doing? All of mine belong to the boss, and of course my Pokémon are also the boss's. They are all the same. There is nothing that cannot be shared between the boss and me, except money and my wife. Chapter 550. Air Final. Pidgeot, Flash. Zahu said. Pidgeot leaped up, and with the help of Flash, its already incredibly fast speed suddenly increased, leaving only after images in the air. Before Mukwa could even react, it was hit head-on by Pidgeot, and crashed to the side like a kite with a broken string. Before it could stabilize its body and regain its balance, Pidgeot launched another strong attack. With a dazzling attack, Mukwa fell straight down. Mukwa, hold on. We will use Flash as well. Zyozzy shouted. Mukwa flapped its wings, and its speed increased rapidly, turning into a white light and rushing straight towards Pidgeot. Zyozzy's Pokémon has its own characteristics. Perseverance. Pidgeot, continue flashing, Zahu said. Although Pidgeot is Kajiro's, Zahu has not been too lax in his training. In terms of speed, he is first class. Even without Mega Evolution, it can be faster than Zyozzy's Mukahawk. Not to mention Mega Evolution, Pidgeot's speed soared, crisscrossing in the air and charging in a straight line. After several battles, Mukahawk was defeated again. The fastest speed, a flash of lightning, Zahu said. Pidgeot's speed soared, and it rushed towards Mukahawk brazenly. Mukahawk, use the spin attack to dodge, Zyozzy said with a flash of inspiration. Mukahawk's body flew up quickly, just avoiding Pidgeot's attack, and then turned around and hit Pidgeot. Zahu's eyes lit up slightly. This kid is really talented in aerial combat, and he will be more than enough to be a flying king in the future. Mukahawk, you sit for close combat, Zyozzy shouted. Mukahawk quickly pounced on Pidgeot, and its wings and claws turned into the sharpest weapons, attacking Pidgeot fiercely. Fierce Storm, Zahu said. Pidgeot did not fight fiercely with Mukahawk, but quickly distanced himself from it. His wings shook violently, and a small tornado appeared out of thin air, suddenly erupting and trapping Mukahawk. His special moves in close combat were completely ineffective. Air Slash. Pidgeot waved his wings, and countless sharp air blades burst out, attacking Mukahawk's vital points. Mukahawk was attacked by the storm, and was continuously attacked by the Air Slash. He was hurt again and again, and screamed and fell from the air. Mukahawk, hold on, use Brave Bad to break through, Zyozzy said. Mukahawk's wings vibrated, and a strong blow light burst out from its body. It had a strong breath, and broke through the fierce storm, and rushed towards Pidgeot in one go. Feather Dance, Zahu said. Pidgeot flapped its wings vigorously, and large pieces of feathers fell from its body, condensing into a feather Pidgeot. Mukahawk rushed forward with force, passing through the feather fake bird created by Pidgeot in one breath, but did not cause any damage to Pidgeot. After passing through, Nook's body shook, intense pain hit, and the reaction force exploded. Pidgeot, Air Slash, Zahu said. Pidgeot flapped his wings, and countless sharp blades burst out, accurately landing on Nook. Nook was hit hard, and fell to a rock wall, completely losing its combat ability. Zyozzy was stunned. He didn't expect it to end so quickly. He took back Nook and said gratefully, "Thank you, Nook." After that, Zyozzy looked at Zahu and said, "Brother, what is the trick of Feather Dance? Is it similar to Guard? When you are free, I will let Kajiro teach you well." Zahu touched his head with a slight headache. This is his own brother, the younger brother of the doctor, so it doesn't matter if he doesn't mention it. He took a deep breath and explained, "Feather Dance, scattering large pieces of feathers from the bird Pokémon and falling on the opponent, can reduce the opponent's defense." "Oh, so that's the case. Then why can it resist my attack?" Zyozzy asked curiously. Because of the feather dance, the large feathers will directly block the vision of the opposite Pokémon, and these feathers have impact force and can temporarily delay. As long as the Pokémon is fast enough, it can dodge, Zahu said. Zyozzy had a knowledgeable expression on his face, and then took out a Pokéball and said, "Big King Swallow, you will fight in the next battle." A red light flashed, and a majestic Big King Swallow flew out, calling "Spar, Spar." Big King Swallow. It turned out to be this one, not Scorpio King. Zahu was surprised. Zyozzy's Pokémon are basically not connected to each other, and it is rare for the previous area to appear in the next area. Zyozzy always advocates using new Pokémon from new areas to fight and train and grow together. "Yes, I exchanged it with Professor Oak last night," Zyozzy said. "That's fine. Let me see if the level of the Great Swallow has declined since coming to Sinnoh." Zahu smiled slightly and then said solemnly, "Pidgeot, Fierce Storm." Pidgeot flapped its wings, and a strong gust of wind blew out from its wings. A strong tornado broke out and wrapped around the Great Swallow. "Great Swallow, show your courage and rush over," Zyozzy said. The Great Swallow's wings vibrated and suddenly accelerated. With its full of blood, it endured the damage from the fierce storm, and then broke through the storm in one breath, and rushed straight towards Pidgeot. "Air slash," Zahu said. Pidgeot flapped its wings again, and countless sharp air blades burst out, hitting the Great Swallow like real blades. The Great Swallow lowered its body and showed a painful expression. "Great Swallow, use lightning flash and rush straight over. I believe you can do it," Zyozzy shouted. The Great Swallow had a firm look in his eyes, ignoring the dozens of air blades on his body, and turned into a white light and rushed straight towards Pidgeot. Pidgeot was not expecting that the Great King Swallow would be so fierce. It was caught off guard and was hit directly. It was knocked to the side of the stone wall and smashed into a deep bird-shaped pit. "Pidgeot, can you still hold on?" Zahu said. Pidgeot flapped its wings and soared into the sky. It was still okay with its actions. "Very good. Lightning flash. Speed up," Zahu said. Pidgeot flew quickly, leaving a trail of after images in the air, and its figures intertwined, far exceeding the average Pokémon. Great King Swallow, don't be confused by Pidgeot's speed. Stay in the air and don't move. Listen to the changes of the wind gods around you, Zyozzy said. The Great King Swallow, who was originally a little panicked, heard Zyozzy's order and quickly stabilized his body, sensitively using his hearing and heart to judge. After Pidgeot's lightning flash speed increased to a certain moment, it launched an attack. However, at this subtle moment, the Great King Swallow reacted and dodged just in time. "Okay, the Great King Swallow uses wings to flap," Zyozzy said. The Great King Swallow swung its right wing suddenly and attacked Pidgeot. "Pidgeot, feather dance," Zahu shouted. Pidgeot's feathers flew out, creating a clone to block the King Swallow's attack, and then Pidgeot quickly dodged. "King Swallow, speed up and turn around to attack," Zyozzy said. The King Swallow's wings vibrated, rising at a high speed, and then quickly dived, chasing Pidgeot fiercely. "Pidgeot, keep rushing down," Zahu said. Pidgeot followed the order without thinking, without changing direction, and his speed increased even faster. He ignored the river below and rushed straight forward. Zyozzy was a little curious, but he always liked head-on confrontations, so he didn't hesitate and said, "King Swallow, don't be afraid, rush down." The King Swallow quickly chased, and the two birds were about to rush into the river. "Pidgeot, fierce storm," Zahu said. Pidgeot flapped his wings violently, and a violent wind was exhaled. A terrifying storm was released, engulfing the flowing water, and a water spout was lifted up, hitting the King Swallow directly. The King Swallow was unable to dodge, and was completely covered by the water spout. It lost its balance, and could not control itself. It was violently controlled and spun by the wind. In Pokémon battles, don't just pay attention to Pokémon's special moves and attributes, but also pay attention to the environment. Zahu looked at Zyozzy and said, "The King Swallow has more than just this little strength." Zyozzy didn't listen to Zahu's words at all. He stared at the King Swallow covered by the water spout and said, "King Swallow, others don't know your strength, but I do. Show your courage. Let everyone see." With a roar, the earth shook. The King Swallow in the storm flapped its wings and broke through the water spout in one breath. Like a rainbow piercing the sun, it hit Pidgeot and rushed Pidgeot into the water. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.